Presenting the world's greatest mysteries. And now, your host.
This is Basil Rathbone. In drama and fiction, newspaper men are invariably tough, hard-boiled characters. In real life, this is, well, it's not necessarily true, although several newspaper men I've known were as colorful as anything fiction has ever had to offer. Mike, whom you'll meet in a moment, is based on a real person who actually works for the European edition of a famous American newspaper. Not only is the character real, but, many of the stories which Mike tells are also based on fact. The tale you're going to hear today, for instance, you may even recognize from the headlines in your newspaper of, not so long ago. In a moment, Mike will introduce you to another mystery solved and signed with his own unmistakable trademark. Europe Confidential.
Presenting Europe Confidential.
Why have they sent you, Mike? Because you are so experienced in espionage?
Well, of course not. That isn't the reason.
Then you know, Mike. You know why people like you are sent on missions like this?
No, I can't say I do.
Because you do not matter at all, that is why. Because they do not care what happens to you one little bit. Because you are, how do you say, expendable.
In a moment, we'll bring you Lionel Merton as Mike Connoy, the Paris correspondent of a famous American newspaper, in another exciting story in our series, Europe Confidential.
I write a column called Europe Confidential for the Paris edition of an American paper. You know, it's a strange thing, but the Army and I never got along very well together. Somehow I never rose above the rank of private. And maybe it was because the brass hats and I never quite saw eye to eye. Well, this story I want to tell you is about my same old European beat, but switch the clock back a few years, 1943 to be precise, and picture private detention before a certain general who was about as happy as a nature lover in the wintertime. And the reason for his happiness, yours truly.
I don't know why they don't take you out of here and put you behind a newspaper desk. As a soldier, you're about the worst I have in my army.
Well, thank you, General. Nice to have confirmation.
You mean you agree?
No, sir. I mean your officers have been telling me that ever since we hit the English coast.
Trouble with you newspaper guys, you don't know the meaning of discipline.
Sir, I'd like to see you in the city room of the Chronicle making us slope typewriters. You'd be a riot.
I'd like you to remember, I am your commanding officer.
Yes, sir. Would the fact that you don't like me as a soldier have anything to do with the fact that we worked for rival newspapers back home? That I once scooped you on a very important assignment?
Nothing at all. The newspaper business is a long way behind me. The Army's my career now.
Yes, sir.
Now listen. You report to the address on this slip of paper. It's a tailor on Savile Row. The tailor has his instructions. He's to make you 3 suits, including the full suit and fish, and the whole outfit, so it'll be ready in 48 hours.
What?
Wait a minute. It gets worse. You go to the Savoy Hotel. You know where that is?
Yes, sir.
A room is reserved there for you. You'll register as a civilian. For purposes of cutting red tape, you're going to be a civilian.
Oh.
But here are your papers. You'll be taking a trip pretty soon. Yes, we're sending you away from all these bombs. Isn't that awful?
Yes, sir.
I wish we were dropping you by parachute into Berchtesgaden. But as it is, you're going to a nice, cozy, neutral country to have a long visit with a beautiful girl. It's discouraging. I tell you, this whole army is as nutty as a fruitcake. I didn't say that, did I?
No, sir, you didn't.
Yes, the Allied Command is sending you on a holiday, and you're traveling as a civilian with the rank of a full colonel.
That's what I mean about brass. An unfriendly attitude. Unnecessary, I call it. Since we were old newspaper buddies, why couldn't the general have been nice? Well, if he was, I guess he wouldn't have been a general. Of course, if you look at it that way, I was going to have to begin changing my loyalties, because according to my papers, I was part of the brass now myself. I got my new suits, and then they sent me to see a certain Captain Smith. I don't think that was his real name. He was something very high in the hush-hush department. It was all set up for midnight on the right side of Cleopatra's Needle. Oh, I can tell you the whole thing was very cloak and dagger.
I say, could you give me a light?
We're not supposed to show a light.
That's correct. What was in the bottle?
Jenkins' ear.
Good out. How did Morgan die?
He died at Governor.
Splendid. All the answers perfectly correct. Silly questions, what? Silly answers, too, come to think of it. But the silliness makes it easier to remember, I always think.
All right, if you say so, Captain Smith.
Let's get down to cases. We have borrowed you from your people because of your special qualifications. Languages, looks, a certain rather celebrated aptitude for the opposite sex, and a fair share of unmitigated gall. Plus a knowledge of Europe and some of the people you'll be meeting.
Yes, sir.
Don't call me sir. Remember, this isn't the army, not strictly speaking. No, this is another show. What do you think of spying?
Well, I don't know. I never tried.
It's a dirty business, of course. Absolutely filthy. But then it's a profession like anything else.
Yeah, I suppose so.
For one thing, the pay is abominable. That's why so many of the regular pros turn double agent on us. You know what a double agent is, don't you?
Well, yeah, I guess so. An agent who sells out to another power.
Yes. We're on to most of that lot, of course. We use them when we can, but it's always sticky. No doubt about that. Sticky.
Another one of those V2s.
That was in Chelsea, I'd say. Appalling weapons, aren't they? Guided missiles.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something, because it's going to be part of your job. This V2 is nothing.
So?
Jerry is getting ready with something a great deal worse in the same line. About 10 times worse, according to our information. Yes, somewhere in Europe, more than 100 feet underground, there's a factory where they're busy perfecting quite a new thing. We have got to stop them. Want to help?
Well, sure, but how?
Your work has to do with an agent of ours working in Istanbul. You didn't ever happen to meet a female named Greenall, did you?
No, I don't think so.
Reddish blonde, sometimes auburn. Grey eyes, rather tall, speaks 8 languages perfectly, 5 or 6 more well enough. She's been a professional agent for more than 15 years. Good at her work, too. Yes, she's been quite valuable to us off and on. This, it appears, is one of the off times.
Oh?
Very much off. She was due to send us something rather important. You know, I gave you a hint about that.
You mean this new rocket factory? Grenall has the information about where it is, and she won't send it.
Worse. She's given us false information. We think the Germans have some sort of hold over her. Blackmail or something beastly. We'd like you to see if you can't get some sort of line on just what it is. We don't really expect you to succeed, but go down and have a try, won't you?
Yeah, but what do I do? Where do I go?
You'll receive sealed instructions when you get on the plane. Details, background, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, but look...
See that car across the way?
Yeah?
It's waiting to take you to the airport. Well, good hunting.
Hey, pilot! Pilot!
Yes?
That doesn't look like the Bosphorus to me.
No, it doesn't at that.
Looks like the Atlantic Ocean.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
But don't you know what it says in my instructions?
Oh, mustn't tell that, you know. Those instructions are supposed to be secret.
Well, that's all very well, but I'm under orders to proceed to Istanbul. And here we are in... Well, where are we, anyway?
Well, this flight isn't part of your show at all. We just happen to be carrying you, if you see what I mean. A little out of your way, of course, but there's an awful lot of red tape attached to getting in and out of these neutral countries.
Yeah, but look, my instructions...
Don't worry. There's bound to be some one of our chaps waiting to take you the rest of your journey tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, relax and enjoy Lisbon. We're coming in now.
Oh, so that's where we are.
Yes, better fasten your seatbelt. Wizard Place, Lisbon.
Sure enough, they had me all fixed up for a flight to Turkey in the morning. Well, I wasn't complaining. There weren't any rockets falling on Lisbon, and anyway, it's always been one of my favorite places for having a good time. I checked into the hotel, changed into my new white tie and tails, and took a cab out to the casino at Estoril.
Comment vas-tu?
Genevieve, what are you doing in Lisbon?
Oh, my dear, in this city there are two things we try to avoid. The first is never, unless it is absolutely necessary, to address a friend by name. After all, you know one's name may not be one's name anymore.
All right, honey, but what's the second rule?
It is a most strict one. We observe it very carefully.
Yeah, fine, but you can't expect me to obey the law if I don't know it.
You asked me what I was doing in Lisbon.
Oh, that's it.
Sherry, no matter what the provocation, we never, under any circumstances, ask each other what we are doing in Lisbon.
Well, I'm perfectly willing to tell you what I'm doing.
Oh, don't bother.
Well, why not? I've got a good job.
Oh?
Yep. I represent the biggest Swedish manufacturers of ball bearings. And tomorrow I'm going up to Stockholm.
To Stockholm? By way of Istanbul?
You mean you know?
Oh, Sherry, in Lisbon these days, everyone knows everything about everybody, and no one asks anybody anything.
Oh.
The first is a question of pride, and the second of politesse. Oh, it's very warm in here. Shall we go out on the terrace?
Am I allowed to answer that one, or must I tell you in code? What are we allowed to talk about now?
Oh, why should we talk?
That's true. Why should we?
Ah, it was a nice kiss. You still do that very nicely, Mike, but...
What's the joke?
You're such a terrible spy.
Yeah, I guess I am at that.
Now, listen, Mike. I've always liked you. I am not working for your people, but I know what you are up to. Don't go to Istanbul.
Well, I haven't got any choice, honey, but I think I'd go anyway. You know me, curious as a cat. Why shouldn't I go?
They put you onto something terribly big, Mike. Terribly important.
Well, that's very flattering, isn't it? Tell me, what do you know about a woman called Grinnell?
Oh, she's been an agent a long time. I do not know her, but I've seen her once in St. Moritz and again in Deauville. Please, Mike, do not go to Istanbul. It is not the woman Grinnell. It is a situation. I tell you, it is too big for an amateur. It is too big for anyone.
Maybe, but well, I'm a lousy soldier. This is more like the old newspaper days. They've at least given me a chance to handle this deal.
And why? Why have they sent you, Mike? Because you are so experienced in espionage?
Well, of course not. That isn't the reason.
Then you know, Mike. You know why people like you are sent on missions like this.
No, I can't say I do.
Because you do not matter at all, that is why. Because they do not care what happens to you one little bit. Because you are, oh, how do you say, expendable.
Well, I was on my way, and I'd been warned. Promptly at 6 the following morning, we took off from Lisbon Airport and made Istanbul in good time and without incident. Well, when you're on a story assignment and you don't know where to start, what do you do first? That's right. You look up some old friends. Which was why around 11 o'clock that night, once again in the white tie and tails, I made my way to Georgette's, an upholstered sewer masquerading as a nightclub. I left my top hat with a Czech girl and called for the head waiter.
Good evening, sir. You are alone, monsieur? Perhaps I can get mine here at table? Near the floor, senor?
Where's Georgette?
I beg pardon?
Come on, you heard me. Georgette.
Georgette?
Yes, where is he?
There's no one here by that name, sir. Unless possibly you are referring to Monsieur Racine.
I wouldn't know, unless Mr. Racine used to be doing an act on a trapeze dressed like a girl in a blonde wig. Of course, that's a long time ago, in Berlin.
Sir, I have never in all my life traveled outside of Istanbul. I wouldn't
But
know...
why all this hocus-pocus and the mystery? Georgette's real name was George Beaton. And why I'm standing here telling you the story of your boss's life, I don't know. Look, wait a minute. I'll tell you. I hadn't bothered to show you the color of the dough. Here it is. This is for you.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now, please come this way. Through here, sir.
Thanks.
If you will step through the kitchen, sir. Here we are. Excuse me.
Yes, what is it?
There is a gentleman here who says he knows you.
Oh, yes, and who?
Hiya, George.
Mike, well, for Pete's sake.
Don't you think we'd better be alone?
Leave us, Raoul.
Yes,
Well, Mike, it's been a long time.
Yes, it has. You're getting fat, old boy. You're also getting rich?
Not so fat, Mike, and not so rich.
How's the opium racket?
No, Mike, you know I don't ever monkey with that stuff. You newspaper guys are all the same. Just when a man thinks you're a real pal, you start the old snoop. What are you after?
Information, and I'm willing to pay for it.
With money?
With money. On top market price, too. You know an agent called Grinnell?
Suppose I did.
Who's shaking her down?
Well, who wants to know?
People with the dough, George. 500 English pounds.
I could use it.
All right, Georgie boy, let's get down to cases, eh?
Grinnell, she's a good looker. She has a sister.
Oh, is that it?
A younger sister called Julie.
Mm-hmm. Where is she now?
She's in Istanbul, too, but she isn't free to move around very much. You might say she's a guest at a certain embassy.
What embassy?
I prefer not to use proper names, Mike.
Yeah, okay, I can guess. The sister's being held in the German embassy. How long do they figure they can keep her?
Your guess is as good as mine, I'd say, for as long as Grinnell herself can be forced to function effectively.
You mean as a double agent?
Of course. She must have got onto something good, and the Germans must be particularly anxious for her not to spill it.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably hoping to use her to lead your people just as far away from the truth as possible, and for as long as possible.
And what happens when Grinnell gets tired of cooperating?
She's very fond of that kid sister.
Yeah, but what happens to her finally? To Julie, I mean. They knock her off, won't they?
Yes, I should think so. Well, Mike, it's been pleasant meeting you. Goodbye.
Yes? What is it?
Miss Grinnell,
What do you want?
I came here to see you about Captain Jenkins.
What about him?
His ear's in a bottle. Also, there's Governor Morgan.
Come in. Come in.
Okay.
No need for all that rigmarole. I know who you are. You used to work on the American Chronicle in Marseille in '37. I met you once in Monte Carlo. Now they've sent you from London. What is your message?
Well, the message is supposed to come from you, Miss Grinnell. There's about 500 RAF planes waiting for the address of a certain rocket factory. The information is past due.
I've always given perfect satisfaction. My
Look,
record
save it, honey. Let's cut the whole thing down to facts, eh? Fact 1, you know where that rocket factory really is. Fact 2, I know where your kid's sister really is. And fact 3, get me that rocket factory and I'll deliver Julie.
How can you do that? There are over 60 people in the embassy. She's up on the 3rd floor. There are armed guards.
Yes, they're giving a reception, aren't they? Tomorrow night?
Who?
The German embassy, honey. Now, don't go stupid on me. I want an invitation.
How can I do that?
You can do it. You're working for them, aren't you? They don't know me here. I've got a pocket full of papers to prove I'm an American businessman from Columbus, Ohio, interested in opening a factory. Here's the name. Get me an invitation for that party and get yourself 2 tickets for Switzerland.
You mean you really
The
think
plane
that...
leaves at 4:30 in the morning. Bring all the information on that rocket factory to the airport, and I'll bring Julie. Well, goodbye now. Sorry, but I've got to run.
Where are you going?
Yeah, you'd never guess. I'm going to play pinochle with the chief of the Turkish fire department. Goodbye for now.
Good evening, Mynheer. Mr. Cotton, isn't it? Yeah, I believe that is the name, Mr. Cotton.
Good evening, Mr. Ambassador. Very nice of you to invite me.
It is our pleasure, Mr. Cotton. The German Reich is particularly interested in the development of industry.
Yes, indeed.
I would like to put a few questions to you privately, Mr. Cotton. Won't you please step this way?
Well, Mr. Ambassador,
I won't keep you very long.
Well, all right.
Thank you. It is rash to talk serious business in this large public gathering. We will be much quieter in my study.
Yes, I dare say.
Through here.
Hey!
Put up your hands high and keep them there. This gentleman, as you can see, is armed, and this room is quite soundproof. He will not hesitate to use his gun.
Okay. Now what happens?
We will discuss that a bit later. Now I must return to my guests. I will be interested to learn why you were so stupid as to come here. I must say that in my entire diplomatic career, I have never had anything made quite so simple for me. I will return later. Meanwhile, Gerhard here will keep you company.
Well, Gerhard, here we are.
Keep your hands up.
The ambassador says I'm stupid, Gerhard. You agree with him?
All the Americans are stupid.
You think it would be stupid of me to try and get that gun away from you, Gerhard? Yeah, I suppose it would, but anyway, I'm going to try. Sorry I only got you in the leg, old boy, but I never was much of a shot.
Schwein!
Yeah, what I need today is to practice my marksmanship, and since this is such a nice, soundproof room...
What are you doing?
What'll I try for, Gerhard? An arm or another leg?
No. No.
All right, then. Where's the girl?
Fat girl.
That was your right hand, wasn't it, Gerhard? You see, my aim's getting better. It's practice that does it. Now, let's try for a foot, huh?
No. She's in there. Screw that door.
Okay, thanks. Julie!
What do you want?
I'm not one of the Nazis, Julie. You'll have to take my word for it. I'm your sister's friend.
Listen, they're coming.
Yeah, we've just got time. Bolt the door.
It won't do any good. This is the only way out.
There's the window.
There's no use.
Yeah, the window's locked, isn't it? Here, give me that chair.
I tell you, it's no use.
1, 2, 3.
I tell you, it's hopeless. There are big gardens on the side of the house. No one will hear. And besides, the embassy guards will be...
Yeah, they're starting to break down the door. Jump, Julie.
Through the window?
Well, where else, you little fool?
But it's 4 stories to the ground. I'll be killed.
Jump, Julie. Go on, jump.
Oh, very well. It doesn't matter. Perhaps it's better to die this way.
Oh, shut up and jump.
Oh.
That's a girl.
Put that gun down.
Look out below, Julie. I'm coming after you.
You wish to kill yourself?
Well, Mr. Ambassador, you told me I was stupid. Auf Wiedersehen. That night, there was seen in the streets of Istanbul one of the strangest sights in the history of that historic city. A procession of firemen bearing 2 bundles wrapped in canvas rushed out of the German compound and boarded a hook and ladder. Then out of the bundles, which were, of course, firemen's jumping nets, there emerged 2 figures.
Where to, Mr. Where do we take you?
To the airport and step on it.
I've been reading your report. Very interesting.
Oh, thank you, sir.
There's just one thing. Turkey is a neutral country. How did you manage to get all that cooperation from the fire department?
Well, I used persuasion, sir. You'll find it all down on the expense account.
I thought you might like to know, Private, that there was quite an air raid the other night over a certain factory on the Baltic Sea.
Mm-hmm.
The Germans won't be making that new rocket, Private. Not for some time, anyway.
Well, I'm glad to hear it, sir.
And I suppose you think we owe the whole thing to you, don't you, Private? Well, we don't.
No, sir?
That air raid was held 3 nights ago when you were in Lisbon.
But
Grenell wasn't the only source of information, not by a long shot. I'm instructed to tell you that the facts we were looking for were sent to us from Portugal, from an agent by the name of Genevieve. However, the Allied Command are very grateful for your help. They've asked me to give you this. Now, wait a minute. Where did I put it? Oh, sometimes I think this isn't a war at all, but a grand convention of lunatics. I didn't say that, did I, Private?
Yeah, no, sir, you didn't.
No, I didn't think I did. Here you are. This is from the Allied Command with their compliments.
Thank you, sir. What is it?
It's an address. They thought you might have lost it. It's that tailor in Savile Row. They want you to return the suits.
You have been listening to Lionel Merton as Mike Conoy in another exciting episode in the series, Europe Confidential.
This is Basil Rathbone again. As Mike takes the copy out of his typewriter to file his story, our play for today comes to an end. Well, goodbye now till we meet again to listen to another of the world's greatest mysteries.
Presenting the world's greatest mysteries. And now, your host.
This is Basil Rathbone. In drama and fiction, newspaper men are invariably tough, hard-boiled characters. In real life, this is, well, it's not necessarily true, although several newspaper men I've known were as colorful as anything fiction has ever had to offer. Mike, whom you'll meet in a moment, is based on a real person who actually works for the European edition of a famous American newspaper. Not only is the character real, but, many of the stories which Mike tells are also based on fact. The tale you're going to hear today, for instance, you may even recognize from the headlines in your newspaper of, not so long ago. In a moment, Mike will introduce you to another mystery solved and signed with his own unmistakable trademark. Europe Confidential.
Presenting Europe Confidential.
Maria, what is it? What's happened?
Pepe, he's been gored by the bull.
Pepe.
He took the muleta and the sword. He was working close, too close. And he was slow, like you said, Senor Garcia.
What are the picadors doing? Quick! We must get out there.
The picadors drove the bull away, but they were late in doing it. They're bringing Pepe now to the infirmary.
In a moment, we'll bring you Lionel Merton as Mike Connoy, the Paris correspondent of a famous American newspaper, in another exciting story in our series, Europe Confidential.
This is Mike Connoy reporting on another assignment for Europe Confidential. I was in Madrid to get copy for my column, seeing the bullfights at the expense of the paper, when I first came across the story of Luis Mantilla. Matter of fact, I was there at the plaza the day it began, watching the spectacle, one of the crowd of thousands packed around the red fence of the Barrera, waiting for the appearance of Spain's great matador. I was there with another newspaper man, a reporter named Ben Forbes, who worked for the Associated Press.
The crowd are getting impatient, Mike. This kid, Pepe Dominica, just isn't good enough for them.
Yeah, I guess they're waiting for the big star, eh?
Luis Mantilla, yeah. He's the reason why Madrid is turned out by the thousand this afternoon. You wait till you hear the welcome they give him.
Popular boy, huh?
Ah, the current idol. Already they're starting to compare him to Manaletti and all the great ones.
Uh-huh.
He takes risks, you see. Works close and gives them thrills. The crowd come for that.
Yeah. Say, that kid down there is working pretty close himself, isn't he? He nearly slipped that time. He ought to be careful.
Now, they'll get impatient with him soon. Then Mantilla will be brought on. Hey, would you like to meet him later?
Who, the great Luis? Well, sure I would.
Okay, I'll arrange it. I'm on drinking terms with Jose Garcia, his manager. We'll go around to meet him after the show's over.
Luis, the plaza is packed. Domingue tells me every seat is taken.
Good, Garcia.
The whole of Madrid is here to see the great Luis Mantilla.
To see him live, Senor Garcia, or to watch him die?
What are you doing here?
Never mind that, Garcia. How's Pepe?
There is something wrong with the boy. Today he's slow. He's working too close.
Get him out of there.
We can't do that. The president has not yet arrived. The crowd would not like it.
The crowd.
You should be out there watching him, Maria.
I could not bear it.
Let her alone.
It is not my concern. But you are, Luis. And you should be resting now. It is always your custom to rest.
Stop nursemaiding me.
I will go. I don't want to cause trouble.
Maria.
Afterwards, Luis, I shall do as Senor Garcia wishes and try to watch Pepe.
Luis, I don't wish to interfere.
What you are?
It's wrong.
It's always been wrong. Does that mean we can help it?
Ever since she saw you, that Maria has only had one idea in her head.
You can't blame Maria. It was a mutual thing.
A bad thing.
Nobody wanted it to happen. Now let me alone. You want me to give those patrons their money's worth this afternoon? Well, get out and stop preaching.
Luis, I'm on your side. I'm only trying to do what is best for you and for everyone.
Luis!
Maria.
What's happened?
Pepe! He's been gored by the bull.
Pepe?
He took the muleta and sword. He was working close, too close, and he was slow, like you said, Senor Garcia.
What are the picadors doing? Quick! We've got to get down there.
The picadors drove the bull away, but they were late in doing it. They're bringing Pepe now to the infirmary.
We saw it happen. The young matador worked in too close, moved too late, and suddenly the crowd was on its feet in horror. The picadors raced in and drove the bull away, then they carried Pepe Domenico off. The crowd waited, patiently at first, And then with mounting irritation as the program was not resumed and the arena remained empty, officials of the plaza sought out manager Jose Garcia.
This is terrible, Garcia. The boy was too young. I should never have allowed Luis to persuade me he was ready for an appearance at the plaza. The whole program is threatened. And now, where is Luis himself? He should be out there.
He went to the infirmary. We must give him a little time.
We
senor.
cannot give him much more time. The crowd is becoming impatient, and the Presidente is due to arrive. Get him out into the arena, Senor Garcia, or there will be trouble.
Maria, thank heaven at least I found someone. Where's Luis?
I don't know. He left the infirmary.
Are they operating on people? Is that why you are waiting here?
There wasn't any need.
Then he's all right. I'm glad. I'll tell the officials. It'll cheer them up.
He's not all right.
But Maria,
Pepe is dead.
I'm sorry.
I can't cry, Garcia. Is that an awful thing to say? He was so young, and before I saw Luis the first time, I was in love with him. All he wanted to be in the world was to be a great matador, and he lived for that. And he died for it, too. Only I can't cry about it.
Better rest. We'll talk about it later.
He had one idol in his life, and this morning we destroyed that. This afternoon he destroyed himself.
You told me about you and Luis.
We thought that was the right thing to do. Don't look at me like that, Senor Garcia. I tell you, we thought it was right.
There's nothing else I can say to you, Maria. Nothing I want to say. I've got to find Luis and get him out into that arena.
So that the crowd may have their money's worth. They pay for thrills, don't they, Garcia? And for blood.
I'll tell the doctor to give you a sedative.
I don't need anything.
And you'll have to excuse me. There's going to be trouble if Luis isn't in the arena by the time the president arrives.
This is intolerable, Senor Garcia. What do you mean you cannot find him?
Senor Domingue, give me a little more time.
Idiot! The Presidente is here. The people are waiting. And the arena? It is empty. Never in all my years has such a thing happened to me before.
I've searched everywhere, senor. None of the picadors or the banderillos of Escadrilla have seen
Huh?
him. No one has seen
Since he left that girl at the infirmary. Go back and question her. She must know where he is.
Perhaps it would be better to provide a substitute, Matador.
Substitute.
That is Cabello.
A second later, the crowd would tear the place to pieces.
But, senor.
Garcia, there are 40,000 people who have paid to see Luis Mantilla, and by heaven they are going to see him. I'll speak to the President, and he can make an announcement about the delay.
As you will, senor.
And you find him. Question the girl again. She must know where he is. It is simply impossible for someone like Luis Mantilla to disappear.
Impossible? So it would seem. But that was what had happened. The waiting crowd was finally told the program was to be abandoned and their money refunded. They went home disgruntled, speculating on the strange behavior of their favorite torero. Of course, the story was headlined in Madrid the next day, in fact, for days afterwards, and the disappearance of Luis Mantilla was a topic of conversation wherever people gathered. The police came in for criticism because of their failure to find the missing man, but they were at a disadvantage. The one person who might have been able to help remained silent. It was just 4 days after this that I first met manager Jose Garcia. With Ben Forbes, I talked to him in a small cafe off the Avenida Franco.
Senor Forbes said you wished to meet me, Mr. Conroy.
That's right, senor. I've got a suggestion, and I'd like to get your opinion on it.
Yes?
Well, I'm a newspaper man, as you know. I'd like to conduct a private search for Luis Mantilla.
Are you serious?
Sure he's serious, Garcia. I can't talk him out of it. Mike's been deep into this thing. He knows all the facts.
Such as?
Well, that Pepe Domenico who was killed was Luis Mantilla's younger brother. And that Luis and the girl Maria were in love. And, of course, that Maria was married to young Pepe.
Well, that much is fairly common knowledge. What else?
Well, that Luis apparently went straight back to his dressing room after he left the infirmary, changed into street clothes, put on an overcoat and hat, and left the plaza. One of the gatemen thought that he recognized him and tried to speak to him, but Mantilla just kept walking. The guy thought he might have been mistaken.
All Madrid knows that, Mr. Conway. And since then, he has been cited by no one. But what I wish to know is why you think you can succeed when everyone, including the police, have failed.
Because for a start, I don't think the girl Maria would talk to the police, or to you.
But she might to you, the newspaper man? I doubt that.
She'll have my word, and you can have it too, that I don't print any stories unless you agree. Well, it's worth a try, isn't it?
Yes, perhaps it is. I want to find Luis, and that is all that matters. Shall I make an appointment with Maria?
No, just give me her address. Leave the rest to me. Well, there are all kinds of ways to get a story. Going in search of a missing matador was a new way for me. The address of the girl Maria was a small apartment building in the central residential area of Madrid. I went there the same evening. I rang the bell of her apartment, but there was no answer. So I went downstairs and I found a janitor, an old guy with a smattering of English who gave me the news.
Maria Domenico. On the 3rd floor, senor. She live here no more.
Where's she gone?
Oh, I do not know. Last night she give up her key. She tell me that if anyone asks for her, I am to say she has left Madrid.
More coffee, Mr. Conway.
No more, thanks. Look, the fact that Maria's disappeared isn't the end of everything. It confirms our guess that she knows where Luis is and she's going to join him.
How can we find them without the help of Maria?
Well, maybe she wouldn't have helped anyway. And there's this to remember. The trail Luis left is cold, but hers isn't. Now, there must be somebody close to Maria who could help us.
I don't know of anyone.
Well, think. Her friends, family. There must be someone.
Ah, Garcia. It is good to see you again, amigo mio.
Sebastian, stop that row. I'm talking with a friend, an American.
I know your friend is American.
You kindly stop playing that thing. I'm trying to think.
So you are trying to think. With what, huh? You want to impress the American brainiest Jose Garcia. And you, Americano, you are a great aficionado.
He means, are you attracted to the bullfights? Go away, Sebastian. Take that noise box with you.
So you are irritable. You are never the same since Luis, he goes away. Where are you going to get a new torero, amigo?
I think if we ignore him, Mr. Conway, he'll get tired of this.
Oh, tired of you, senor? Never. You are always good for a laugh. And little Maria, huh? Oh, what a one she is. Pepe is dead. And Louis gone. So now she takes a 3rd one.
What are you talking about, music maker?
Mathiel Domenico. I seen him in here the day before yesterday.
Mathiel?
They are talking very close across the table. Talking secrets, senors. Love secrets, perhaps.
My heavens, she was with Mathiel?
Well, what's all this about, senor?
Luis's elder brother. The family name is Domenico. He's a lawyer here in Madrid. I think it is important that we see him as soon as we can.
Certainly, I was with Maria, Senor Garcia. Since Sebastian has told you, there is little point in my denying it.
We're still trying to find Luis, Mathiel. And now Maria, too, has disappeared.
And you want to know why Maria and I met and what we talked about? Well, I am not sure that I can tell you.
I want to find your brother, to persuade him to come back to start again. People don't hold Pepe's death against him, Mathieu. It was one of those things that happen, and now it is forgotten.
And you think that is why he disappeared? Because he felt responsible for Pepe's death?
I'm sure of it. Just as I'm sure that the crowds would have him back. And he'd be greater than he ever was before. I've seen them all. Belmonte, Manolete, Joselito, all the past. Another year or two and he could be the greatest of them all. And it's not the money, Mathieu. The other is the reason why I want him back.
I believe you.
Then you will assist us to find your brother, senor?
The two types of appeal. From Garcia, the emotional approach. From the newspaperman, the direct question.
Well, either you will help or you won't. I don't think there's any doubt that you can, if you want to.
One thing holds me back, Senor Conay. When you find Luis, then what? It becomes a story in your newspaper.
Conay has given me his promise. There will be no story unless Luis agrees. Let me promise you, Mathieu. If he wants to come back to the plazas and the crowds that love him, then let the newspapers proclaim it on every stall and street corner. But if he does not, if he can't be persuaded, then there's an end of it.
I have your word? Both of you?
Yes.
All right. I'll tell you what I can. 3 days ago, I had a letter from Luis granting me power of attorney and asking me to draw funds for him from a bank account.
His own?
He had several since he began to make big money. This one was under another name, and so I was able to make the withdrawal without trouble. His instructions were to give it all to Maria, who would be joining him.
And you did that? Of course. At the cafe?
Yes. At the cafe when Sebastian saw us.
Tell me, where was the letter from, senor?
Valencia, Corsica. There was no other address than that. So now, if you want to find him, I think it is up to you, Senor Conay.
I took off for Corsica the next day, and in the town of Valenti, I set out to search for Luis Mantilla. I had several photographs of the matador and one of Maria, and with these I combed the city's hotels and lodging places. It was slow, routine, a long succession of negative answers, until finally I questioned the proprietor of a small hotel on the outskirts of the town.
Let me see those photographs again, monsieur.
Yeah, here.
You are from the police in England?
No, nothing like that. I'm a newspaper man. I'm trying to find this man for a friend of his.
Well, I would not like to think you trick me. It would not be good to involve my friends in trouble.
Then you do know these people?
Oui, I know them. Luis Fernando, he stays here several days.
Oh, but look, that isn't
his real name.
Oh.
It does not matter. Once he was someone else. Now he's Luis Fernando. And Maria, the girl who came 2 days ago, she is Maria Fernando now.
You mean they were married?
As soon as she arrived, monsieur, I am a witness at their wedding.
It was a long, tedious job getting the story from the proprietor, but eventually I managed to do so. Luis had stayed in the small hotel while waiting for Maria's arrival, and during that time he and the owner had become friends. After the marriage, Luis and Maria had returned to a village in the mountains, some miles outside the city. With a great deal of persuasion, I learned the name of this village. Well, from that point on, it was very simple. Inquiries in the village led me to a small farm, and in a hired car I drove there, arriving shortly before sunset. 2 people were working in a field near the farmhouse, and even without another glance at the photographs, I knew that my search was at an end. Later, a lot later, after the shock of introductions were over, I sat with Luis and Maria and talked of the future and the past.
So there it is, senor. Luis Mantilla is dead, and Maria is dead. We're 2 other people starting a new life together.
That's how it is, and always will be, Senor Connoy. if you keep our secret, as I think you will.
Well, what about Garcia and your career back in Spain?
I'm sorry about Garcia.
I find it hard to be sorry for him. Luis was just a meal ticket to Garcia. He will find himself another one.
Well, I think you're misjudging the man, you know. I believe what he told your brother, Martial.
Perhaps. But Garcia wouldn't understand.
You won't go back because of Pepe and of what happened?
Pepe?
Well, wasn't his death the reason why you chose to disappear?
Pepe's death? No, senor.
It touched off a spark that had been smoldering a long time. You tell him, Luis.
It was very bad for me when Pepe died. Maria was his wife, and I loved her from the first time I saw her. And because of that, in a kind of way, I killed my brother. And after he died, I walked back from the infirmary through the crowd. And they were hushed, it's true. But I saw the eagerness for tragedy, and the sense of death that was through them. And then suddenly I knew why they were all there.
Why, Luis?
To see death, senor. Not the bulls. The toreros themselves. That's what they came to see. It is nothing to watch a bull die, but a man riding out there on the yellow sand of the arena. Oh, yes, senor. That was it for them. Why, I've heard old men tell their sons. I was there the afternoon Farida died. And those who were there would have been able to boast that they'd seen the last time Luis Mantilla walked in the plaza of Madrid.
Well, all right, so you were suddenly sickened by it. Couldn't you have announced your retirement?
Manolete tried to do that.
They spat on him, and people threw stones at his house, senor. The one thing the crowd will never forgive is for its idol to walk away unscathed.
They taunted him into coming back for one more season, and he never lived to see the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Besides, I couldn't have gone out there into the arena, even for one more fight, because I think I would have been killed. As for now, senor, I have the feeling I'm going to live to be a very old man.
I left them there and walked away, feeling almost envious. For they were two people who knew where they were going. They were free of the chains that had bound them, and they were in love. The future belonged to them. They gave me permission to write this story, although I've changed some of the names so that their privacy remains undisturbed. And next season, the bull rings of Madrid will have to find a new idol. For Luis Mantilla will never be going back to the plaza again.
You have been listening to Lionel Merton as Mike Connoy in another exciting episode in the series, Europe Confidential.
This is Basil Rathbone again. As Mike takes the copy out of his typewriter to file his story, our play for today comes to an end. Well, goodbye now till we meet again to listen to another of the world's greatest mysteries.
Presenting the world's greatest mysteries. And now, your host.
This is Basil Rathbone. On a street in Paris, there's a sign denoting the entrance to the offices of one of America's famous newspapers. Out through the entrance, many times has come one roving reporter extraordinary. This has been his starting point for journeys to the capitals and villages of Europe. His aim has been to investigate, to search into, to find the secrets behind those mysteries that result in front-page copy and make the headlines of this famous daily. News which without doubt had its mysterious implications and, more likely, its menacing moments. In a moment, one such story. It carries Mike's byline, and he tells it the way he saw it.
Presenting Europe Confidential.
Das ist Friedhausen, Frau Weinrich.
What is it, Ruth?
This is where Otto leaves us. We're not a quarter of a mile from the frontier.
And the mist's coming up. Tell Otto we'll never be able to thank him enough. Never as long as we live.
In a moment, we'll bring you Lionel Merton as Mike Connoy, the Paris correspondent of a famous American newspaper, in another exciting story in our series, Europe Confidential.
This is Mike Connoy reporting for Europe Confidential. The story I want to tell you right now is not a news story. It took place almost 20 years ago. At the time, I was a copy boy back in New York, and Europe Confidential was being handled by Paul Rogers, a correspondent with long experience of Europe between the two wars. This story happened to him on an assignment in Germany in 1938. Maybe that's why it has a special interest for me, because Paul Rogers was doing exactly the kind of job I'm doing right now, when one morning he walked into the editor's office to meet Andrew Thompson for the first time.
Sit down, Paul.
Thanks, Chief.
Your papers are all in order to leave for that air display in Munich. We got them back from the German embassy this morning.
Fine, I'll leave tomorrow night.
Yeah, now look, something has come up. Look, I'm not asking you to handle it all. Your job is to go and report that air exhibition they're turning on. But I'll tell you this just the same, and you can make up your own mind about it.
About what?
Well, Mr. Thompson here is English. He came to see me for the first time last week to find out if I could do anything to help. His daughter is in Germany, and he's unable to visit her there. He simply cannot get an entry permit.
Well, why's that, Mr. Thompson?
I don't know. I applied several times, and each time the application was rejected.
The point is, he hasn't heard from his daughter for over 6 months, and he's pretty badly worried. But, look, suppose you tell it, Mr. Thompson.
Yes, of course. Now, let me see. It was 4 years ago. Yes, 1934. when Ruth went over to Germany on a summer holiday trip. She met a man there named Weinrich, Rudolf Weinrich. He was a doctor, a graduate in medicine from Munich University. Over our protests, she married him.
Have you met him?
Once. My wife and I went to visit Germany in 1936, 2 years ago. And, of course, we met Rudolf then.
Yeah?
But actually, we were quite impressed. I felt my daughter was happy. Weinrich had begun to make his way as a surgeon. In fact, we heard on good authority he was regarded as brilliant. So we felt things would probably work out for the best.
And now?
Well, now I'm worried. Devilishly worried. It's 6 months since I've heard from her.
You've written?
Every few weeks.
There it is, Paul. Look, you'll be in Munich. It might be possible to make a simple inquiry.
Why not?
Will you do that for me, Mr. Rogers?
I'll be glad to.
Oh, thank heaven. Just to know that she's all right, that it's simply a matter of being too busy to write, would take a great weight off my mind.
You better give me your daughter's address in Munich, Mr. Thompson.
It's number 25, Leopoldstrasse, Marienthal.
Number 25, Leopoldstrasse, Marienthal. She never gave any indication that she might be moving from this address, did she?
None whatsoever.
It might be as well for us to have a photograph.
Oh, I can let you have a photograph.
Now, in the last letter you received, did your daughter give any hint of trouble or unhappiness?
Well, she didn't actually say anything, Mr. Rogers, but there were one or two parts of that letter which puzzled me.
Puzzled?
Ruth was a very vivacious sort of person. Yet that letter... Well, unfortunately, we destroyed it. But even if you had read it, I doubt if it would mean anything. There was nothing she actually said.
You feel there was some constraint, which was unlike your daughter.
Yes, that's it. Constraint. Mm-hmm. And it was unlike her.
Well, we have the address, so Paul's inquiries can start from there.
And if my daughter's moved away, or if something's happened, then you might try getting in touch with Frau Schmidt.
And who's Frau Schmidt, Mr. Thompson?
She was a young widow, a friend of Ruth's. She lives in the same street, Leopoldstrasse. We met her when we were in Germany, and Ruth often mentioned her name in letters.
What about the last letter?
Oh, no. Oh, now I come to think of it, she didn't. Not in the last letter.
2 days later, Paul Rogers was in Munich. After he settled into his hotel, made arrangements for covering the air display on the following day, he went to number 25, Leopoldstrasse, Marienthal, the address that he'd been given as the home of Ruth Weinrich. There, he met his first setback.
I'm sorry, Mynheer. I'm unable to help you. I bought this house from Dr. Weinrich, but I cannot tell you his present whereabouts.
How long ago did you buy the house, Mynheer?
Perhaps 6 months. I suggest if you wish to contact the doctor, then you should try the postmeister. Perhaps he can be of more assistance.
It was when Paul Rogers had to begin making official inquiries for Ruth Weinrich that he decided to use a subterfuge that would explain his interest and his reason for trying to trace the doctor's wife. At the post office, he interviewed the man in charge.
Well, Herr Rogers, I understand you wish to see me.
Yes, Herr Postmeister. I'm trying to get in touch with my cousin, an Englishwoman who married a Dr. Weinrich in this city some years ago.
An Englishwoman?
Well, I had an old address. But I've learned that the doctor and my cousin moved away, and I'm anxious to locate them.
Well, in what way can I help you, Mynheer?
Seemed to me that you would have a record of their change of address.
Our records are confidential. I could hardly do what you ask without authority.
Oh, but look, after all, my cousin...
It would have to be authorized. Such things can be arranged, perhaps 3 or 4 days, perhaps a week.
That wouldn't help. I'm on a business trip, and I won't be staying long. Thanks all the same, Herr Postmeister. I'll have to try and find my cousin some other way. Paul Rogers had not come to Germany to find Ruth Weinrich. That was an incidental, a sideline to his real purpose for being in Munich. Yet somehow, as one after another the leads faded out, Paul became determined to locate her. For that reason, he went back to Leopoldstrasse to call on Frau Schmidt, who had been a friend of the doctor's wife.
Ja, wer da? Was wollen Sie?
Frau Schmidt?
Ja.
My name is Rogers. I'm a relative of Ruth Weinrich's. Can I talk to you?
Eine Minute. Please, come in.
Thank you. You speak English?
Yes. What about Ruth Weinrich?
Well, I'm anxious to get in touch with her as soon as I can. Just passing through, you understand, on a business trip. I went to her old address, but the people there couldn't help.
A relative, you said?
Cousin, about 3 times removed, American branch of the family. Her parents asked me to drop by and give their regards. Of course, I agreed. It's proving a bit of a job to find her. Post office wanted me to fill in forms and things, but I don't have time for all that red tape, so I thought you could help.
You went to the post office? You spoke to the postmaster?
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't very wise, Herr Rogers.
Look here, this is ridiculous. I know things are different to England and the States, but after all, a man wants to find his cousin, and it seems to cause all sorts of complications. Now, do you know where Dr. Weinrich has moved, or don't you?
Dr. Weinrich? Yes, I can tell you that.
You can?
Of course. He has become a very important person. He has moved to Geisel-Gasteig. He bought a big new house there.
Geisel-Gasteig. It's pretty exclusive, isn't it?
I told you, Dr. Weinrich has become an important person.
Well, what about the exact address? It's not listed in any directory because I've already looked them up.
I'm not sure of the exact address, Herr Rogers, but I've no doubt anyone in the district will be able to tell you. A person of his importance would be well known there.
Paul had no real difficulty in locating the home of Dr. Weinrich. It was quite a shock after the modest house at number 25 Leopoldstrasse. The doctor had graduated to a huge 2-story home set in rambling grounds and screened by a high stone wall guarded by iron gates. He was eventually admitted and interviewed an English-speaking servant who seemed to fulfill the duties of a butler.
Dr. Weinrich, sir. I'm afraid that's quite impossible. The doctor is in Berlin at present.
It isn't the doctor I wish to see. It's Mrs. Weinrich.
I beg your pardon, sir.
Mrs. Weinrich. I'm her cousin. Just tell her...
I'm afraid there must be some mistake.
Mistake?
There isn't any Mrs. Weinrich, sir.
What?
The doctor isn't married. To the best of my knowledge, he never has been.
When Paul Rogers left the house in Geisel-Gasteig, it seemed as if the trail could end there, and Ruth Weinrich could become one of those untraceable people. The butler had quite obviously spoken what he believed to be the truth. Dr. Weinrich himself was not expected back from Berlin for many weeks. So Paul did the only possible thing left. He returned to see Frau Schmidt, where his welcome was, well, anything but cordial.
Well, Herr Rogers, what do you want this time? I thought I made it clear before that I told you all I know.
Oh, maybe you can tell me what happened to Mrs. Weinrich.
I don't understand. What do you mean?
I asked you where I could find the doctor, which was a mistake because you gladly told me. You must have known I wouldn't find Mrs. Weinrich there.
I don't know their business. I keep out of other people's affairs.
Look, Frau Schmidt, I've got to find Ruth Weinrich. I think you can help me do that, and I want you to trust me.
Why should I trust anyone when they lie to me?
Lie?
You're not her American cousin. She hasn't got an American cousin.
Really?
I think you'd better go, Herr Rogers.
How do you know she hasn't got an American cousin?
Please go.
When you answer my question, you didn't know it before. How could you know? Unless since the time I was here last you found that out. From Ruth Weinrich herself.
For a moment in that small house in the Leopoldstrasse, there was silence. Frau Schmidt was the first to break it.
I don't know what you're talking about, Herr Rogers, but if you don't leave this house, I'm going to call the police.
I don't think you will, Frau Schmidt.
Please, leave me alone.
I think it's time I told you the truth. I used that cousin routine to explain my interest in Mrs. Weinrich. Perhaps it was a mistake to try it on you.
Who are you?
My name's Paul Rogers. I work for the paper in Paris.
A newspaper man?
I'm here on a routine assignment in Germany. When he found out I was coming, Mr. Thompson asked me to try and locate his daughter. Look, let me try and prove you can trust me. Now, here's my passport. You'll see the name's really Rogers.
Yes.
What's more, I can tell you that Ruth Thompson came over here first in 1934, that she met Weinrich and became engaged to him. She went back to England, then returned to marry him. Her parents visited here in 1936, and I understand they met you while they were here.
That's correct.
Of course, if the information doesn't convince you, then I'll just have to ask you to trust me.
I think I do.
Is the Gestapo after Ruth Weinrich?
They're not sure. They may be.
What happened between her and the doctor?
That's a story Ruth could tell you better than I.
Do you know where she is?
Yes, I know.
Will you take me to her? I understand your caution in the matter, but if she's in trouble, I might be able to help her.
Oh, it would be a relief to have someone to trust, someone who might be able to help her. All right, Herr Rogers. I'll take you to Ruth Weinrich.
They left the house and walked almost half a mile through a maze of twisting streets and narrow alleys in the poorer section of Marienthal. Several times Frau Schmidt stopped and looked behind her to make certain there was no one following them. Finally, they came to a small antique shop. They passed through the shop after Frau Schmidt had spoken briefly in German to the proprietor and climbed a narrow stairway leading to the residence above.
One moment, Herr Rogers.
Yes, da.
It's me, Elsa.
Elsa,
It's all right, Ruth. This is the man who said he was your cousin, but I think we can trust him. Oh, there's a lot to explain. He's a newspaperman from Paris, from your parents.
So, my father actually came to your newspaper office and asked you to find me, Mr. Rogers.
That's why I'm here, Mrs. Weinrich.
You don't know how much this means to me. Just to realize that somewhere in the world there's someone who even cares what happens to you. I wish it would do some good.
We'll talk about that in a minute. How about bringing me up to date on the rest of the story?
If you're interested in my troubles.
That's my only interest, right now.
I suppose you could say it started when I married Rudolph. I shouldn't have married him, but for over 3 years we were happy, and I thought it was going to work out.
Well, what happened?
He was terribly ambitious and very brilliant, and that was the cause of it. When we married, he was just a surgeon, unknown. But inside of 3 years, everyone was talking about him.
Then there was that call to Berlin.
Yes. Elsa remembers that call to Berlin.
Well, what was the idea?
Well, there was an operation to perform. They wanted Rudolph to assist.
So who was the patient?
Nobody knows for certain. There were all kinds of rumors that it was Goebbels. Others said it was Rudolf Hess.
And some even claimed it was Hitler himself. We don't know, Mr. Rogers, but we do know that something happened to the chief surgeon. That at the last minute, Rudolph himself was called on to operate, and that the operation was a success.
Yeah, I'm beginning to understand. That explains the sudden rise in the world. The big house at Geiselgasteig and the servants.
It also explains me. I was an Englishwoman. Rudolph was suddenly an important man in Germany. He had one easy way out, and he took it. There wasn't even a divorce. He simply sold the house and moved, and told me that we were finished.
Where did you go?
She came to stay with me, Herr Rogers, until that seemed more of a risk than either of us could take.
Risk?
There were all kinds of rumors being spread about Ruth. People said because she was an Englishwoman, she must be a spy. The Gestapo came once to question her, and then they came back again. Only she was gone.
I was here, Mr. Rogers, and thanks to Elsa knowing the owner of this shop, I've been here ever since. He doesn't use the residence, and he's one of those people who like to think that even an Englishwoman should be treated as a human being.
Did you have much trouble with the Gestapo, Frau Schmidt?
I had to lie and say I didn't know where Ruth had gone. I think I convinced them.
Mm-hmm. And of course, when I turned up with those questions...
You know just how I felt.
How long have you been here already?
2 months. I haven't been outside or opened the window and looked out in all that time.
Now, let me get this straight. You want to go back to England?
Yes, Mr. Rogers, I want that very much.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll have to think this over, see what I can work out. Suppose I come back tomorrow and we'll talk again, huh?
I can arrange for you to come straight in. I'll introduce you to the proprietor downstairs.
Good. I'm at the Savoy in case you want to get in touch. And meanwhile, Mrs. Weinrich, don't worry too much. We'll find a way out of this somehow. Rogers went back to his hotel to puzzle over the problem of Ruth Weinrich and of her safe return to England. He bought a detailed map and studied it late into the night. Finally, about 1 a.m., he retired to bed with a fair idea of what had to be done. Barely 15 minutes later, drowsy with sleep, he heard a soft, insistent knocking at the door.
Oh, what on earth? All right, wait a minute. Frau Schmidt.
Quickly, let me in.
What's happened?
Oh, everything. Those inquiries you made at the post office. The postmaster reported them. It started the Gestapo searching for Ruth all over again.
Gestapo?
They came to question me earlier tonight. I had to lie and lie. Then I had to wait until it was safe to come out.
You sure you weren't followed?
Certain. But it won't be long before they start watching me all the time, and then we'll be helpless. Because they'll watch you, too.
Seems as if I made things all the more difficult for her.
They might have given up entirely, but now they're convinced that there's something in that spy story. There's still time for both of you to get away, but it's got to be tonight. Now.
Do you think they'll be watching the station?
Sure to be. You've got to keep away from the railways and the main roads. Do you know a place called Auweis?
No, but
Ruth does. It's only 5 miles or so from the Swiss border. I have some friends there, people called Schweigler. They have a farm. Ruth's been there and she'll be able to guide you once you reach the district.
They won't ask questions?
They're my friends. As for food, I've brought a little. All I had in the house.
One day, I hope we can thank you for this, Elsa.
Just to remember, when you get back to Paris, Herr Rogers, that there are some people in Germany who want to live in peace.
I won't forget. That or anything.
They made their way west and then south, fringing on the Black Forest, traveling through hilly country and keeping away from the main roads. A distance of 140 miles that took them 7 heartbreaking days. On the evening of the 7th day, they reached the Schweigler farm, where they stayed for 24 hours, and where no questions were asked and hospitality was warmly given. Long before dawn the next day, with Otto Schweigler as guide, they were on their way to Friedhausen, and less than 2 hours later, they saw the lights of a small frontier town ahead of them.
Das ist Friedhausen, Frau Weinrich. Ich muss jetzt zurückgehen.
What is it, Ruth?
This is where Otto leaves us. We're not a quarter of a mile from the frontier.
And the mist's coming up. Tell Otto we'll never be able to thank him enough.
Bedanken Sie sich nicht. Ich habe gern getan. Alles Gute für Sie weiter.
He understood. He wishes us luck.
Alles Gute und auf Wiedersehen.
And goodbye.
They went slowly forward toward the lights of the small town and then swung east toward where they knew the frontier lay. Barely 50 yards from freedom, they crouched, waiting in the mist, waiting until they heard the distant changing of the border patrol.
Zugestanden!
They're relieving the guard now. This is our best chance, Ruth. Ready?
Ready.
Come on!
Leutnant, was ist das? 2 Leute Flüchtlinge. Sie rennen zur Grenze. Schießen, Sie schnell!
Jawohl, Herr Leutnant. Ackland, Böll, zum Donnerwetter!
All right?
Yes.
Wissen Sie, die Steuern nicht sind. Sie dürfen die Grenze nicht verlachen.
We made it, Ruth. Through the fence. We're losing them in the mist. They can't touch us now.
Through the wire strands of the border fence and then on into the mist, leaving the shouts of the patrol and the sound of shooting far behind them. They slowed to a walk and finally came into a small Swiss town. It was an hour after dawn. The mist was lifting, and in clear outline against the sky, the mountains of Switzerland lay directly ahead. A few days afterwards, Paul Rogers was back in Paris. Ruth Weinrich was with her parents in England, and the paper had itself a scoop that could have pushed the Munich air display right off the front pages. But the irony of the newspaper business never gets into the headlines. They couldn't use the story because of Elsa Schmidt and the safety of the others involved. It never got into print. Until now.
You have been listening to Lionel Merton as Mike Connoy in another exciting episode in the series, Europe Confidential.
This is Basil Rathbone again. Well, that was Mike's story. This roving reporter friend of ours certainly has what I think the journalistic profession calls a nose for the news. I'll be back again with another of these mystery adventures, and I hope you'll join me. Goodbye now, till we meet again to listen to another of the world's greatest mysteries.
Presenting the world's greatest mysteries. And now, your host.
This is Basil Rathbone. Mystery, suspense, perhaps sudden death are the tokens of a roving reporter's trade. They're all here in these tales which Mike tells. They are the ingredients that make the news, and Mike finds them where the news is made. To anyone else, it might be just an unrelated fact. Perhaps, well, a not very interesting item of news which came in on the ticker tape, or a word which was dropped in casual conversation. But it's enough to make him grab the fastest transport at hand and send him speeding to the scene. In a moment, our story.
Presenting Europe Confidential.
Can you get that draft through in time for the fight?
That's by next Thursday? I should think so. I'll fix it from the bank in Madrid.
And my $1,000, you still have it? It's safe?
Don't worry about chicken feet like that, honey. By next Thursday, you'll be on Easy Street in the biggest house on the block.
In a moment, we'll bring you Lionel Merton as Mike Connoy, the Paris correspondent of a famous American newspaper, in another exciting story in our series, Europe Confidential.
This is Mike Conoy. Writing this column of mine, Europe Confidential, you come across all the stories in time. The sad ones, the solemn ones, and the amusing, the bizarre right alongside them. This one, I think it might go under the title of High Comedy with a Kick. Or should I say, a knockout? I first saw Judy Diamond go to work on the American Tourist in a small, intimate nightclub called El Casa Pepito in Madrid. His name was Morgan, I found out later. He was looking at Judy over the rim of his glasses if he found her quite an eyeful. Come to that, she was. Quite an eyeful.
Just stay over in Madrid one more day, Judy. Can't you manage that?
Oh, Sam, I'd love to, but you don't know my boss. He didn't even like me coming to Madrid for the weekend, and if I'm not back in Barcelona, ready to start work tomorrow morning, ouch.
He sounds like a slave driver.
Charles W. Charrington is a stinker, especially to his secretary.
You say that name like I should know it.
Oh, only if you're connected with high finance. He's an American who's really in a big way here in Spain.
And I'm just a tourist, but not a pauper.
Oh, I didn't mean to imply that, Sam. Oh, you know, I'm glad I took this weekend to Madrid. Otherwise, I never would have met you.
You really mean that?
Mm-hmm.
Then stay out.
I can't.
If the guy's such a stinker, then quit your job.
Well, that's what I want to do. The only thing is I want to make some money before I do. If only I could just figure a way to...
To what?
Well, I'm not sure that... Oh, nonsense.
What?
Oh, I started to think I shouldn't tell you about it. I don't know why I shouldn't. You don't know Mr. Charrington, after all. Won't ever see him, probably. Besides, you're nice. I like you. I'm sure I can trust you.
Sure you can. Have you got some idea?
Well, you see, Mr. Charrington's a great sportsman. Loves to gamble on fights, races, almost anything.
Matter of fact, me too.
Well, anyway, he's got this big palace of a place in Palamas near Barcelona. Oh, you know, mink-lined swimming pool, tennis courts, the works. And right on his estate, he found that one of the workmen, a Spaniard he is a wonderful boxer.
Uh-huh. So?
Pancho Rodriguez is his name, and he's really good. Well, at least, I don't know much about boxing, but the trainer Mr. Charrington brought down, and the doctor, and everybody, they all say that Pancho will be world champion.
Really? Pancho Rodriguez? Funny I never heard of him.
No, not funny. It would be funny if you had heard of him. He's had 10 fights, won every one by a knockout. Don't you see, Mr. Charrington is keeping him under wraps. All his fights are held in secret, so that when he's matched in New York and London, he'll be absolutely unknown. Well, they're trying to get him matched against top boys, and whoever it is Pancho fights, Mr. Charrington will be able to get simply wonderful odds, you see?
Mm-hmm. Beginning to. But I don't see how you figure to make any money out of this. Are you going to...
Let me tell you. Mr. Charrington has arranged to have Kid Garfield fly over for Pancho's next fight, his big test. In secret, of course. Now, Mr. Charrington always tries to get his guests to bet against him. He takes Pancho, and he'll give big odds because he's so sure of Pancho.
Yeah, and?
Pancho has agreed with me that he'll lose this next fight if I give him the word. He'll... what's the expression?
Take a dive?
That's it. For a price. Mr. Charrington's been giving him a purse of $5,000 every time he wins. Well, we agreed I'd give him twice that if he loses.
This Charrington, he gives good odds on Pancho?
Last time he was trying to find takers at 2 to 1.
How can you lose?
I know. Isn't it awful?
What's awful? It's a smart scheme for a girl to have thought up. What's the hitch?
Well, even with all my savings, I couldn't win enough to pay off Pancho. Besides...
You gotta have someone to do your betting for you?
Exactly. Oh, I guess I'm just stuck with my job for a while longer.
What would you say if I offered to put up some of the capital for you?
Oh, no, Sam, don't be foolish. This isn't your affair.
Business proposition, of course. I'd expect half the profits, don't forget, after Pancho's been paid off.
But have you got that kind of money?
On a sure thing like this, I sure have.
Oh, Sam. Look, I'll give you all my savings right now.
Hey, wait a minute.
$1,000, if you can only help me out.
You don't need to give me your money, Judy. I can...
look on it as a way for me to prove my good faith. Let's both have another drink on it, shall we? To celebrate our partnership. Oh, Sam, you're wonderful. And you'll be able to raise some cash to bet?
On this kind of proposition, I'll have $30,000 in cash at least. I guess when you leave for Barcelona, I'll be coming with you.
Quick work, Judy. Where'd you park him?
He's at the National Hotel. Is the estate all rented?
Everything's under control. I only have it for a week, though, so we'll have to work fast. Where have you planned to have me meet him?
At the bullfights tonight.
Fine.
Make a bet with him, any kind of bet.
And being certain to lose. Fine. Is he right?
He's itching to meet you, dear Mr. Charrington.
There's an old saying, and it's as true as it's old, that you can't cheat an honest man. But wave the bait, and very few honest men go by. That's the philosophy Judy Diamond and her friend Charles W. Charrington worked on. So events took their natural course, and Sam Morgan, who thought the meeting at the bullfights had been very cleverly contrived by Judy, found himself now an acquaintance of the great Mr. Charrington, and richer by a couple of $100.
Well, either you're uncommonly lucky, or you certainly are an expert on bullfights.
Just luck, Mr. Charrington, beginner's luck. Thought that bull would last longer than you figured.
Oh, well, it cost me $230. Let's see, there you are. What was your name again?
Morgan. Sam Morgan from Cleveland. I'm in the insurance game. I'd like to give you a chance to win some of this back. When's the next bullfight?
Well, I believe it's next week. How long do you plan to stay in Barcelona?
Well, I'm not sure.
Hey, tell me, do you like boxing much?
Oh, yeah. I get to the fights whenever I can.
Well, maybe you'd like to drop out for lunch sometime. I've got a little place along the coast.
Oh, that's very kind of
Oh,
you.
it makes a difference when you meet people abroad. I know that. Let's say Thursday. How would that suit?
Fine.
Tell me, where are you staying?
At the Nacional.
Well, I'll have my chauffeur pick you up at noon. Just a few friends, you know. General Van Store and a business acquaintance of mine and one or two others. And my secretary, Miss Judith Diamond.
The technique of the confidence man is delusion, and delusion can be so simple. A big car and a chauffeur in livery, a rented mansion, a few actor friends playing distinguished parts as luncheon guests.
Oh, Tim, let me introduce Mr. Morgan, Rear Admiral Jansen and Mrs. Jansen.
How do you do?
And this is General Van Sickle, Mr. Morgan.
How do you do? I'm very good.
Miss Frazier, Mr. Morgan.
Frazier.
Oh, Mary, maybe you better get Mr. Morgan a cocktail. And this is Miss Diamond, Mr. Morgan. Miss Diamond is my right hand and general factotum. Anything you want, just mention it to her. Excuse me, will you?
Yes, please.
Yes, they set the stage well. A phony rear admiral, a phony general, a phony movie starlet. First they fed him lunch, and then a good Havana cigar. Then all and sundry went for a stroll down to the specially outfitted training quarters.
Oh, Charles, this is the fighter you were telling us about.
Discovered him yourself, I understand, Charrington.
That's right, General.
Hey, how about that? Is that why you were asking me if I went to prize fights, Mr. Charrington?
Well, what do you think of him? He's fast, isn't he?
Certainly is. What's his name?
Well, I call him Young Pancho. Of course, I don't know yet whether he's any good or not. He hasn't fought a single fight.
He hasn't? He hasn't? He looks so sharp, I'd have sworn
Oh,
that...
he's beautiful. He's so graceful.
No, he's fighting for the first time next Thursday. Tell me, you've heard of Kid Garfield from the States?
Oh, sure, I've seen him.
I understand Garfield's pretty good. He's been holidaying in Paris. So I've gotten him to fly over and go a few rounds with young Pancho. I'm making up a purse for the winner.
Charles, off Kid Garfield's record, and seeing that young Pancho has never had a fight, I hate to do it, but I might take some of your money away from you at a friendly wager.
Oh, trust Mr. Charrington, General. He'll see to it that the odds work for him.
Maybe I can give you a chance to win your $230 back, Mr. Charrington. What's the matter?
Excuse me, Mr. Morgan. I'm really sorry. That's shocking bad manners. I was just amused at the idea, that's all.
Idea of what?
Well, you see, I was planning to make up a purse of $10,000 in the fight, and any side bets that I place on Pancho, well, I'd want to make sure that my winnings would cover the purse, don't you see? $230.
I might possibly be able to bet a stake that would interest you.
Oh, well, that would be fine, Mr. Morgan. Fine. Well, look, everybody, shall we stroll over and watch Kid Garfield spar around or two? He's got quite a punch. But I don't fancy he's the boxer that young Pancho is.
Well, what do you think, Sam?
He said this was Pancho's first fight coming up.
Oh, he always tells people that, don't you see? That way, they're likely to bet him a lot more money. That's the kind of man he is. And that's one reason I hate him so much.
I see what you mean. Well, say, here he comes.
Who? Oh, Pancho.
Senorita.
Have a good workout?
Gracias, it was fine. I feel best I ever feel.
But don't forget now, Pancho, third round, that's our agreement.
Senorita, what are you saying?
Oh, don't worry about Sam here, Pancho. He's my partner in the deal.
But, Senorita, if too many people find
Now,
out...
don't worry, Pancho. I said it's all right. Third round, and that's our bargain?
Si, third round.
Hey, you Pancho, get in the showers.
Buenos tardes, senorita.
Well, Sam?
I'll go in with it, Judy. Looks good to me.
Oh, wonderful.
Charrington, he got me a little sore. I'm going to show him. I'll take him for plenty.
What do you mean?
I'll have to get a draft from the States, but I think I can work it so that I can put my hands on $45,000.
Oh, Sam.
Yeah. At good odds, say 2 to 1, we'll clear...
So much, I just can't think of it. Oh, Sam, I just want to kiss you.
Okay with me, honey.
Can you get that draft through in time for the fight?
That's by next Thursday?
Mm-hmm.
I should think so. I'll fix it with the bank in Madrid.
And my thousands, you still have it? It's safe?
Don't you worry about chicken feed like that, honey. By next Thursday, you'll be on Easy Street, in the biggest house on the block.
If I'd known in time what Judy Diamond and her boyfriend Charrington had planned, maybe I could have saved Sam Morgan some money. The trouble was, though I knew something was brewing, I didn't know the details, not until later. I didn't know that a brief few days later, having waved the bait in front of their fish, they were about to hook him, but good.
Well, and over the brandy, I'm ready to start accepting bets. $10 as usual, of course. Well, General, 6 to 4?
Well, Charles, those are good enough odds. Suppose I bet 25,000. I'm taking Garfield now.
Fine. Just give your 25 to Judy here. And
Oh, no,
here's
wait.
mine.
I don't want to be carrying all this money around, Mr. Charrington.
Well, here, I'll tell you what. Take this little satchel. You can stuff it all in there. Well, Judd? Well, fire and thunder, man. I'll tell you what. I'll give you 2 to 1.
I'll take those odds, Charrington.
What's that? Oh, Morgan. Oh, fine, sir, fine. I'll take your $230 if I can't get any larger action from these gentlemen.
My wager on Garfield is $46,000, Mr. Charrington.
Fine. You've got cash, of course. Look, give it to Judy here. And, Judy, here's my end.
I guess I should have waited for these odds to go up.
Oh, Mr. Charrington, I hate to be carrying all this money around.
Is it getting heavy, Judy? Well, all right, here, Morgan. Suppose you be appointed custodian of the stakes.
Well, I don't know.
Oh, come on, man. I'm sure everyone here trusts you. Well, can I get any more action? Okay, there's just one thing I want to say before we all go to the ring. Ladies and gentlemen.
The philosophy is an old one, but it always works. Make the victim feel guilty. Make him think it's going to be easy money. Show him you trust him. Yes, they pulled all the tricks on Sam Morgan. And then down to the specially constructed ring, where perhaps 50 people were gathered round. All of them, of course, were in the scheme, except Sam Morgan. But not all of them were on the payroll. Some of them were friends, gamblers, confidence men and their girls, anxious to watch the fun. So while Judy Diamond sat close to Morgan, exchanging glances full of meaning, the fighters came out for the first round. Round 1 was a warm-up, the fighters pretending to measure each other, fancy footwork.
Come on, Pancho!
Watch him, Garfield!
Trust Charles for a good show. Come on.
Yes, it was a good show, artistic, even some action. Whop! That was because Pancho went down on his knees. Garfield really clipped him. Morgan, down at ringside, eyed the satchel, hoping that Pancho would make it look good. Then Pancho went down again.
2, 3, 4, 5.
How about it, Morgan? Enjoying the fight?
Yeah, sure. But your boy didn't look very good in there.
Don't you worry about Pancho. He'll be all right. I'll just go down and have a word with his handler.
Sure. Judy, you ought to make it look better than this.
What's the matter, Sam?
Pancho. He should make it more of a fight. Otherwise, they'll suspect.
Oh, you leave that to Pancho. And be careful. We don't want to seem too friendly.
So the fighters came out for round 2, and the farce went on. A cut opened up under Pancho's eye. The crowd responded.
He's all yours,
Pancho.
Garfield.
What's that laugh?
Upstairs. Work on his eyes, Garfield.
Another spectacular piece of artistry. Pancho is down. He gets up again, weakly spars his way through to the end of the round. The principals are working to a climax now. Morgan jovially chides Charrington about his fighter's form. Charrington appears surly and worried, and they wait for round 3. This is where it happens. The fighters come out both slugging. Pancho shoots a left to Garfield's face, takes a right cross, dances back with hands down and guard wide open. Then another right from Garfield catches Pancho, who falls back and looks very dazed. Now the moment has arrived. Garfield steps in, measures Pancho, swings a terrific right, and misses. And Garfield falls, arms flailing, blood spurting from his mouth.
What happened?
He went out. Touch him. Where's the doctor? Hurry, man! What's happened?
What happened, Judy?
Gosh, Sam, I don't know. He just fell over. The doctor's getting into the ring.
Get me my bag at once. On the seat there.
Doctor, what happened?
This man is hemorrhaging. He's in a very bad shape.
I never touched him, Santissima Madre de Dios.
Apparently, you didn't need to touch him. Stand back, please.
Doctor, what is it? Nothing serious.
Serious as it can be, Mr. Charrington. This man is dead.
The scheme to stage the phony fight had ended in tragedy, or so it seemed, as the crowd huddled round the ring, and one of his seconds placed a blanket over the fallen Kid Garfield.
Dad? But how?
Apparently, Mr. Charrington, when he missed that terrific swing, he burst a blood vessel. Completely chance. Couldn't have been predicted.
But are you sure?
Charrington, your guests.
Oh, yes, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, I must ask you all to leave at once. Now, look, please say nothing of what has happened here tonight. I'm very much afraid we are accessories to homicide if this ever gets out.
Sam?
Yeah?
Quick,
Good night,
the money.
ladies and gentlemen.
There.
What are you going to do?
Please leave.
What do you think? Take it.
But we lost. We lost the bet.
I don't care. He'll never be able to report us. He'll be too busy trying to hush this thing up.
Yeah, but...
Listen, a plane leaves from Madrid at 11 tonight. Grab it. I'll meet you at El Casa Pepita tomorrow at noon.
But, Judy, we're liable to be arrested on a homicide
Well,
rap.
don't you think I know that? Well, go on, beat it. I'll meet you in Madrid. Hurry.
But I've got no money left.
Here. Quick, before they see I've got the satchel. Here's 100. Goodbye, Sam. And Sam, listen.
Yeah, what?
Hurry.
The most artistic aspect of his swindle was that Morgan fled, convinced he was in for real trouble, homicide trouble, completely forgetful of his $45,000. And as soon as he was safely off the rented estate, the Confederates gathered round for the payoff.
Well, this is good business, Johnny. How you like my art?
Oh, you're a wonderful Pancho. Garfield, the way you bit into that bladder of chicken blood, I thought it would never stop coming out.
The doc slipped me a second bladder when he was inspecting me.
Yes, and then you had to go and bite into it so that the blood spurted all over my brand new suit. $200 this suit cost me. The dry cleaning bill comes out of your end.
Don't worry, Doc. I'll take care of it. Oh, 45,000. Where's the satchel? Come on. We'll split up the profits now.
Yes.
Here it is.
Hey, where's Judy? She's the one that deserves some praise. Oh, the way she hooked that poor fish. Judy!
Well, she must have gone inside for something.
Okay, I'll take her cut and give it to her later. Hand me that satchel. Oh, you know, whenever I think of the expression on that Morgan's puss, why, you know, I'll bet he was... What's this?
What's the matter, Charlie?
That vixen, that seventh daughter of a seventh daughter, that double-crossing, no-sex triple-crossing wry-necked witch, that...
Who, Charlie?
Diamond! Judy Diamond! She's run off with my money!
No!
Not yours, you idiots! I've got enough to pay you off your salaries, every penny. It's the bet she's absconded with. Gosh, one of the shrewdest schemes I've ever hatched, and she has to throw the queer in it. Listen to her note. She says, and I'm leaving 5 for your end, Charles. That'll be enough to pay for your long-distance phone call to tell me what you think of me. I'll be in Madrid tonight, but after that, who knows where I'll be. Love, Judy.
So the best laid schemes, they say, can come unstuck. How did I get all the details of this little plot and counterplot? Well, I got them from Judy Diamond herself. I ran into her in Madrid, and the story was so good she couldn't resist telling me before she vanished into smoke along with her newly acquired husband. Yep, Sam Morgan. She picked him up in Madrid the next day as arranged and found that she kind of liked him after all. People are funny, aren't they? Goodbye now.
You have been listening to Lionel Merton as Mike Connoy in another exciting episode in the series, Europe Confidential.
This is Basil Rathbone again. It seems mystery is a tonic to our friend Mike. So another story has gone to press, another mystery solved. But there are many more stories to tell. They have their beginnings in the dark alleyways or the, well, brightly lit boulevards of Europe. We hope you'll join us again to hear them. Goodbye now till we meet again to listen to another of the world's greatest mysteries.
Presenting the world's greatest mysteries. And now, your host.
This is Basil Rathbone. Mystery, suspense, perhaps sudden death are the tokens of a roving reporter's trade. They're all here in these tales which Mike tells. They are the ingredients that make the news, and Mike finds them where the news is made. To anyone else, it might be just an unrelated fact. Perhaps, well, a not very interesting item of news which came in on the ticker tape, or a word which was dropped in casual conversation. But it's enough to make him grab the fastest transport at hand and send him speeding to the scene. In a moment, our story.
Presenting Europe Confidential.
You fool. Corbett's the man you should have tailed. What do you think he's been up to?
I don't know. You tell me to stay with the senator, Monsieur Clint.
If the senator walked up the dock, would you follow him there?
Please, that would be silly.
Dave Corbett is the only guy, but the only one who can louse me up. He would have to be in Paris. Come on.
To where, Monsieur?
The Dauphin Hotel. If Corbett's gonna come into this game, he's gonna be on my side. Alive or dead.
In a moment, we'll bring you Lionel Merton as Mike Connoy, the Paris correspondent of a famous American newspaper, in another exciting story in our series, Europe Confidential.
This is Mike Connoy. I was sitting in my office at the press building trying to figure out where my next column was coming from when I had an unexpected visitor. The door opened without any preliminary knock, and a thick-set man pushed his way in.
You Connoy, Mike Connoy?
Sure, but to what do
My
I...
name's Corbett, Dave Corbett. Maybe you heard of me, huh?
Had I ever heard of Lucky Luciano? Sure I had, and I'd heard of Dave Corbett, too. At one time, Corbett was almost as big a name in the rackets, but things had gotten too hot for him in the States, and he'd been living on his wits in Europe these past 5 or 6 years. Yes, I'd heard of him, and I told him so.
Well, then, maybe you're interested in the story, Connoy.
I'm always interested in a story. Sit down.
Thanks. You heard of Senator Payne? Senator J.G. Payne?
Payne. Yeah, wait a minute. Wasn't he the man who...
You got it. Yeah, he was the man who headed the Senate investigation into my activities and ran me out of the country. Okay, so they had right on their side. I was playing the rackets. But Payne made it a personal vendetta.
So, what's the angle?
Did you know Senator Payne is here in Paris?
No, I didn't. Well, I mostly get the lists of VIPs.
Maybe he's not advertising the fact. That's why you didn't hear this. I first knew it about a week back. I was in the Plaza Bar around noon. I was just ordering a drink.
Mr. Corbett? Mr. Dave Corbett?
Huh? Why, yes, indeed.
I'm sorry to bother you.
Bother? If all such bothersome things were so attractively packaged, I'd be the most gladly burdened of men.
Will you, please come with me?
Oh, I see now. Isn't that approach a little bold? After all, an establishment like this frowns on such obvious...
Please, Mr. Corbett, come with me. You're the only one who can save him.
Me? Save anybody? You come to the wrong man, honey.
Please, you must. Even though you hate him.
Hate him? Now you interest me. Just which antagonist do you mean? My enemies are legion.
Wasting time. He'll pay you a great deal of money.
Money?
You can name your own price.
The price of my hatred comes high. But for money and hate, Corbett goes anywhere. Lovely lady, lead on. Profitable business should be made as painless as possible, and this girl was a pleasure, Conroy. The dark Irish type, with eyes the mood and color of the restless Channel waters, and hair as blue-black as the proverbial raven's wing. We took the elevator in silence to the third floor and walked along the hotel corridor.
We're almost there.
Tell me, Baldan Sonon, are you bringing me on a wild goose chase?
If it is, then it's the goose that lays the golden egg, Mr. Corbett.
Well, the rose has thorns.
This is it.
Yes?
I found him, sir.
Come in, by all means.
The Honorable Senator James Payne, I believe.
Aren't you surprised to see me, Corbett?
Not particularly. This morning, when the wind from the Seine brought with it the usual aroma of stale grease and ancient garbage, I had an idea I might run into some old enemy before the day was through. Aren't you in the wrong country?
Still the same old Corbett. Insulting, conniving.
And you're the man I'm supposed to help?
It's not by choice, believe me.
That I do believe, Senator. The dislike is mutual.
How much has Diana told you?
So her name is Diana. She told me everything about herself, nothing about you.
Why, I did nothing.
Your eyes, my dear. A woman's eyes tell everything about it.
Senator, I said nothing at all about anything.
I understand, my dear. My secretary, Diana Barnes, who knows me better than I know myself.
My deepest sympathy, Miss Barnes. Well, Senator, it's nice leaving you.
Yeah, well, now, wait, Corbett. I'm offering you $15,000.
For what?
For helping me. I'm being blackmailed. Diana, show him the photographs.
The lovely Diana passed me the photographs, Conroy. She should have been blushing, because they were really something, believe me, even for Paris. And they were dynamite. The kind of dynamite that can wreck political careers.
In my office in Paris, I was listening to a story. A senator on vacation in Paris was being blackmailed with a set of photographs. The man he'd called on for help was Dave Corbett, a racketeer that he had driven from the States some years before.
Believe me, Conroy, the photographs were good. And spread across the papers back home, oh, boy, what a splash they could have made. Senator, I didn't think it, even of you.
You see, Diana? Even Corbett believes the man in those cursed pictures is me.
Mr. Corbett, I'll have you know that Senator Payne is not the man in those pictures.
Good little girls should never tell lies, Diana.
Hang it all, she's telling the truth, Corbett. I never frequent such clubs as those pictures show. And here, look at this one. You'll recognize a newcomer to the party.
Ah, yes. Forrester Clint, ex-Capone boy. Admire his instincts, but not always his performance. He's a little clumsy. Don't tell me you and Clint are buddies nowadays.
Be sensible, Corbett. Can you imagine me in such company at any time? Particularly with an election coming up next month?
Ah, so it's an election coming up, huh? Of course. I lose track of these things, you know. And where's the blackmail in this?
Forrester Clint is going to ruin me. He wants control of my state. A free run for his crooked gambling syndicates, his men in public office. I refused. He's claimed he'll send these negatives to the newspapers back home unless I change my mind within a week.
And he's here in Paris?
He came here to arrange this blackmail.
Forrester Clint has improved with the years. This is almost worthy of me.
I never expected you to understand, Corbett. But I thought the fee might make it worth your while. Re-election means a great deal to me. I worked hard for my office. I don't want to win or lose because of a hoodlum like Clint. I don't like to think of any high office being ruled by his kind. Or yours.
Now, you're being honest. This is most confusing in politics.
Something far more important than any office is at stake, Corbett. I don't want my wife, my family, to be subjugated to this kind of smear campaign. They don't deserve it.
Spoken like a true family man, an American, and a politician.
Oh, Senator, there must be some other way to get the negatives than this man.
Please, Diane.
Helene, the fair and the loyal. I'll get the negatives and the rest of these pictures from Clint. $15,000.
Thank heaven.
I'll take the money now.
I expected that. Pay him, Diana.
How do you know you can trust him, sir?
He's the only man I know who can outwit Clint. I've got to trust him.
My fee, Miss Barnes?
Here it is. You'd better count it, Mr. Corbett.
But why? I trust you.
Oh, you...
Just how do you plan to contact Clint?
It's easy enough to find men like Clint. The hard part lies in avoiding him, as you should well know, Senator.
What is my next move?
Stay on and enjoy your vacation. Diana and I will let you know how things transpire.
Diana?
She comes with me.
What?
Now listen here, Corbett.
Clint doesn't know her by sight, does he?
I don't think so.
Then she'll be our go-between. You can pack, Diana. I want you to register at another hotel. The Dauphin will do. We'll meet you in the cocktail lounge in 3 hours.
Just what do you think?
Diana, I'd appreciate it if you would cooperate with Mr. Corbett in whatever way you can.
Well, Diana?
Very well, Senator. I'll do my best.
Thank you, my dear. But so help me, Corbett, if you try any of
Don't
your
try my
tricks...
patience too far, Senator. If I were you, I'd get some rest while we take care of your troubles.
Well, come on, Pierre. I employed you so you could keep tabs on him in this city. What's happened?
A few hours ago, the senator sends the girl down to the bar.
Yeah.
She meets someone there.
Uh-huh.
A man named Dave Corbett.
Dave Corbett?
This is not good news.
Not good news, Pierre. What happened then?
The girl takes Corbett to the senator's suite. I follow, but not too close so they can see me.
Yeah.
I listen, but I hear nothing. So I go up the fire escape outside the senator's room.
Yeah, well.
I'm late in hearing their conversation, Monsieur Clint. But I do hear Corbett tell Payne to stay in his suite. And he tell the girl to meet him at the Dauphin bar in 3 hours. Which is almost now.
And just what have you been doing in those 3 hours?
Watching the senator to make sure it is not a trick.
You charhead, you fool. Corbett's the man you should have tailed. What do you think he's been up to?
I don't know. You told me to stay with the senator, Monsieur Clint.
If the senator walked off the dock, would you follow him there?
Please, that would be silly.
Dave Corbett's the only guy, but the only guy who can louse me up. He would have to be in Paris. Come on.
Come on where?
The Dauphin Hotel. If Corbett's gonna come into this game, he's gonna be on my side. Alive or dead.
So things were warming up, Canoy. I met Diana Barnes at the Dauphin bar as planned, but she arrived white-faced and scared.
Mr. Corbett. Mr. Corbett.
I never dared hope you'd be this anxious to see me, Diana.
It's Clint over at the bar.
Oh? Wow, so it is. Now listen, don't sit down. Keep walking as if this was a casual meeting. Take the side door out of here and go back to Senator Payne's suite and stay there.
But...
Clint's coming this way. I don't want you around when he gets here. Now hurry. If I haven't called by morning, you and Payne better beat it back to the States.
But what about you?
Why, Diana, I never dreamed you cared.
Oh, goodbye.
Hey, drinking alone, Corbett? That can turn into a bad habit.
Why, Forrester Clint. In Paris, of all places, and in the flesh. It is flesh, isn't it, old chap?
Same old Dave Corbett. A real Parisian these days, aren't you?
Since things got a little warm for me across the Atlantic, Paris has become a second home.
Oh, you was telling me about it. How about letting me buy you a drink? At my place.
Just which place do you mean, Clint?
Oh, little estate I rented out of St. Julian about half an hour from here. Shall we go?
I suppose it could have looked like they were taking me for a ride. Maybe that's how it was meant to look. We drove out into the country, Clint and me, and a gorilla-like French chauffeur in the front seat. We stopped outside a remote farmhouse and got out. After a long tour, you bring me to a ruin like this? Really, Clint, I thought you were doing pretty well.
Oh, I'm doing fine, Dave.
I like the open spaces. More room to breathe in town. Come on in. Enter.
A web? Why not? Hey,
Forrester, you back again? This is a surprise.
Senator Payne.
Who's this guy, Forrester?
Well, I'll be... The face is Senator Payne's and the voice is almost identical.
Inside, Frank. Come on, Dave. I'll buy you that drink I promised you.
Yeah, I could use one.
Sure, drinks on the house.
Sit down, Dave.
I didn't figure to see you back so soon, Forrester. What happened?
Shut up. Pour the drinks.
Oh, yeah, sure, Forrester.
Now, Dave, I'm open for business.
To risk the obvious, this isn't Senator Payne.
You bet I'm not.
The Payne boys were identical twins. Frank here was the black sheep of the family. Also was supposed to have died in a train wreck 15 years ago.
But Jim identified the wrong body. I came through alive. Made myself scarce, and I've been waiting for the day when I could get back at that mealy-mouthed brother of mine.
Identical twins. The oldest pitch in the world.
Yeah, Frank was the man in those pictures. So simple it always works. Even fooled you, Dave.
I can be fooled.
Frank's lived on jealousy and whiskey ever since the accident. He crossed my path several months ago, just as I was figuring on how to move into Jim Payne's state. He was an answer from heaven. We found out Payne was due for a vacation in Paris, so how much better we could set it up here. And that's it.
Very neat.
Oh, I can give you a fat fee, Dave, and a chance to pay off an old grudge against the senator.
Fat fee? You only paid me $500.
Shut up. Dave, I've got him over a barrel. How much did he offer you to get those negatives?
$15,000.
15 grand, and I got a lousy 500 to pose.
I'll give you 25,000 to come in with me, Dave.
25 grand in advance?
Half. The rest when the deal is completed.
Listen, Clint, if you want to throw money around, toss some my way. I've been cheated. Did you hear me? Cut me in on this, or I'll go to my brother and tell him...
What? You what, Frank?
Well, nothing, Forrester. Oh, I didn't mean it. What are you going to do, Forrester?
Here. Monsieur Clint. Take him and walk him over. He talks to you.
No! Forrester, no!
Get him out of here. And hurry. I'm sorry about that interruption, Dave. Not in the answer to my offer.
Here's the answer, Clint. Our deal has to be 50-50 or it's no deal at all. Half share of all you clean up.
50-50? Why, you? Do you think you'll get away with this?
I'm sure of it. All because of a young lady who was with me at the Dauphin.
What about her?
She's Payne's secretary. I spent a great deal of time and effort getting a complete file of your misdemeanors, Clint. If I fail to contact her, copies of said file will be sent airmail to all state and federal law enforcement officers in America, with a copy to the French Sûreté. Any mere photographs would hardly reach space in the general clamor about the doings of Forrester Clint. You wouldn't want to be named public enemy number one and find it difficult to get home without wearing handcuffs.
50-50 it is.
Right. Where are the negatives?
Let me keep one secret. I'll collect them and meet you at Payne's Hotel in an hour. Then we'll go call on the senator.
What time is it, Senator?
Nearly 2 p.m.
What's happened to him? What's gone wrong? I know he was taking a risk. Don't you realize? Somehow Clint must have found out that you were hiring Dave.
Impossible.
He was expecting trouble. He made me leave.
I never dreamed that Corbett could fail. Diana, what am I going to do?
Oh, is that so important now?
What?
Anything could have happened. He may be dead. Why don't you call the police or do something?
The strange charm of Dave Corbett. I don't understand. I never will. He's a criminal without a scruple of any kind. He's blinded you, Diana. Yes? What? Downstairs? Yes, of course. Ask them to come out. Thank you.
What is it, Senator?
Corbett and Forrest Clint downstairs.
Dave? But Clint, what does it mean?
We'll soon find out. They're on their way up now.
Good afternoon, Senator Payne. Diana.
Mr. Corbett. And Forrester Clint. Surely you haven't forgotten me, Senator.
Hardly. Well, gentlemen, what is your business?
We'll come right to the point, Senator. We want to discuss the possibility of your re-election when you return home.
What?
I'm afraid I don't quite understand, Mr. Corbett.
Mr. Clint has informed me that your re-election can be a certainty, providing you agree to his highly lucrative business proposition.
Clint, I told you once and for all.
Oh, don't be too hasty, Mr. Senator. My proposition is so good that Dave Corbett has come in on the deal with me.
What?
Corbett, is this thug telling me the truth?
I brought certain contracts for your signature, Senator, that will allow Mr. Clint full-scale operations in your state.
Oh, no. You wouldn't.
I can't believe it, Corbett. Not even you.
The price of the negatives, Senator. Oh, you better give me those negatives now, Clint. Prove our good faith to Senator Payne.
What good faith? Yeah, but here you are, Dave. The negatives. And the rest of the pictures.
All nicely tied with a pretty ribbon, Senator. A ribbon as blue as Diana's eyes.
You... How small can you get?
Now, will you sign the contract, Senator? I'll deliver the negatives to Miss Barnes.
Yeah, that's right. Just sign on the dotted line, Payne. Everybody'll be happy.
Sold out. Because I trusted a rat.
Here's your pen, Senator.
And here, back, Diana. Get out of the way.
What are you doing?
Corbett, what? Down on the floor, Senator.
A gun?
Hold it, Clint.
Are you crossing me, Dave?
Hold it. You can live without the negative.
Oh, yeah?
You killed him!
What happened? He's shooting.
I suggest you call an ambulance. There's been an attempt on Senator Payne's life.
Oh, mon Dieu.
And keep those people out of here for a minute.
How can I ever thank you, Corbett?
You risked your life, Dave. And all the time we thought...
Save it. I had to kill Clint to take over his lucrative business myself. I'll keep his negative, Senator.
You'll what?
Oh, Dave. Oh, no.
With a chance like this, Senator, you don't think I'd let you off so easily? These incriminating negatives in my possession, like the sword of Damocles, will be suspended over your uneasy head from here on. Call them Corbett's annuities, Senator. And now, if you'll excuse me.
I might have expected this.
And I was beginning to think you were a human being.
Never make that mistake, my dear Diana. Goodbye now. Well, there you are, Kenoi. It happened a half hour ago. By now, the news will be out.
Yeah, quite a story. But I don't understand. You must have come straight here to tell me this. Why?
Well, I get a little homesick at times, Kenoi. Maybe the day will come when I want to take my passport along to the American consul and get a passage home. I'd like people to know Dave Corbett isn't quite as bad as the record says.
Look, if I write this story, you'll be every bit as bad. According to your own confession, you walked out on a nice kid who was in love with you. You're planning to take over Clint's blackmail, quite apart from killing him.
I kill him in self-defense. All I wanted was the negatives. Even Payne can testify to that. As for Diana, I did her a favor. Don't hold that against me.
Okay. So all you want to do is get revenge on Senator Payne. That won't go down too well with the people who read my column, Corbett.
Okay, Kenoi. You got a fire extinguisher here. Not that it'll make much of a blaze.
What on earth do you...
This is what I came to do. Here are the negatives and the other photographs. Watch them burn. Want to warm your hands, Kenoi?
I don't understand.
There. Ashes to the wastebasket. There's your story. I'll be reading tomorrow's paper, so make it good.
So that's the story. Why did Corbett burn those films in my office? A gesture? Well, maybe it was a little more. Maybe it was an attempt to show that people can be misjudged on past mistakes. But I don't set out to explain people. My business is merely reporting the facts. I'll leave you to judge the answers for yourselves.
have been listening to Lionel Merton as Mike Conoy in another exciting episode in the series, Europe Confidential.
This is Basil Rathbone again. It seems mystery is a tonic to our friend Mike. So another story has gone to press, another mystery solved. But there are many more stories to tell. They have their beginnings in the dark alleyways or the, well, brightly lit boulevards of Europe. We hope you'll join us again to hear them. Goodbye now till we meet again to listen to another of the world's greatest mysteries.
Presenting the world's greatest mysteries. And now, your host.
This is Basil Rathbone. Suspense, mystery, and sinister doings are all part of the story we have for you today. This is one of those stories which makes the news, the headlines. Often a news item may in the beginning give nothing more than a faint clue to the mystery which surrounds it. But it's that mystery, when found, that makes exciting reading. If you were a newspaper man stationed in Paris with the whole of Europe in which to find news to fill your paper, where would you start looking? Well, a man in this position is a reporter with a roving commission to wander at will through the highways and the byways of the European continent. From all sources where languages intermingle and sometimes nationalities clash, come the lead to those items you find on the front page of your daily paper. Yes, these stories make the news, and they are found where the news is made.
Presenting Europe Confidential.
I've heard rumors of you. Wanted in the States, aren't you?
Well, how did that get around?
I heard it. Yeah. You've been in some big deals.
All right, that covers my references. What about yours?
You're a very cool one, amigo. You don't think much of your life, do you?
In a moment, we'll bring you Lionel Merton as Mike Connoy, the Paris correspondent of a famous American newspaper, in another exciting story in our series, Europe Confidential.
This is Mike Connoy. Did I ever tell you about the day I took a ribbing from the boys on the paper when I landed in Paris carrying a bunch of violets? It was March 1946, and it started in Marseille. I was there to get a story about a flourishing black market and the man behind it. I landed from Paris around 2:30 in the afternoon to be met by a member of our staff who'd arranged hotel reservations and other details.
There you are, Mike. Single room at the Plaza Hotel under the name of Mike Maloof. So why you want to stay in that end of town?
Well, for the same reason that I'm using an alias, Toby. We got wind of this black market in Paris. When the chief decided I was to handle it, we started sending the word around about a big-time American racketeer named Mike Maloof. Maybe it'll pay off, maybe not, but, well, that's how I hope to get into the black market.
Seems like a risk you're taking.
Oh, stop worrying for me, Toby. Thanks for the hotel booking. I'll be in touch. So, for the sake of a story, I became Mike Maloof, American racketeer, occupying a hotel room in the seamy part of Marseille. For the sake of a story, I had to adopt a new identity and use the information we'd carefully built up in Paris from reports that had filtered through. I spent the night at the plaza, and early the next morning I was surveying the square outside my hotel when I was detected for a tourist and given a special kind of welcome.
Violets, sweet violets, kind gentlemen. Spend a few pence for the good of your soul and a breath of English countryside.
Well, it would take more than your violets to sweeten my soul, Mother. And tell me, what do you know about the English countryside?
I was born in England, that's what. And if I choose to warm me old bones in a warmer climate, that's my own business, kind sir.
You're a prickly old puss, aren't you? And just for such courage, with a possible customer, I'll purchase a bunch of your dilapidated blossoms.
Oh, thank you, sir. I knew you were a proper gentleman the moment I laid eyes on you, I did.
I might also buy a little information.
What kind of information?
You wouldn't happen to be acquainted with a certain pirate by the name of the Spaniard?
The Spaniard?
You ever heard of him? You'd remember the man. A scar, like a gaping wound across his face. And instead of a left hand, he flourishes a wicked iron hook, I'm told.
Oh, I know the Spaniard, though I pray to forget such as him. What would you want with him, gentlemen?
Words, Mother, just a few simple words.
Would you be his friend?
Well, neither friend nor foe. I've never met him.
His foe you'll be. He makes no friends.
I'd like to meet him.
It's your loss. You can find him at Crow's Nest, a sailorman's saloon and lodging. Down the next street and one over. You can't miss it. Just follow your nose and the noise.
What you do with a drunken sailor? What you do with a drunken sailor? What you do with a drunken sailor?
It was like walking into a page of Robert Louis Stevenson. Ship's lanterns lighted the place, fishing nets and cobwebs decorated the walls, and I swear that some of the patrons boasted barnacles. But at the bar, with a swearing green parrot on his shoulder, was the English renegade they called the Spaniard, complete with scar and iron hook. Well done, gentlemen, well done. But shouldn't the song have been 15 men on a dead man's chest, yo-ho-ho, and the rest of it?
And who's that bright boy?
Perhaps he comes to slum. Behold, he brings flowers.
Let's heave him out. Come on, get out with you.
Hold on, mateys. There'll be no heaving overboard of a man who comes to Crow's Nest with posies. He's either a maniac or a fox. And this one's no madman.
Oh, greetings from Renard, Spaniard.
Ah, Reynard, is it? I've read me fables, matey. What's the fox's other name?
Mike Maloof.
Well, look. I know that one, too.
Well, your fame is also known to me.
Judging by them dead violets, by way of Gentle Annie.
Oh, is that her name?
She's been called other things.
Yeah, she told me where you dropped anchor. But the most important facts concerning you I had before arriving in port.
Well, maybe we'd better have a private talk, Mr. Maloof.
I'm at your disposal.
Follow me. Run in a bucket of grog for me and my friend Robbie.
On the double, Spaniard.
Welcome aboard, Mr. Maloof. We've got some talking to do.
At last I was getting somewhere. Sharing a bucket of grog with the Spaniard was a privilege reserved for very few.
State your business, Mr. Maloof.
I've come to Marseille to work. There are those who say you run a black market here.
Who told you that?
I never betray sources of information.
You're a cool one. I've heard rumors of you. You're wanted in the States, aren't you?
How did that get around?
I heard it. You've been in some big deals.
All right. That covers my references. Now, what about yours?
You're a very cool one, amigo. You don't think much of your lot, do you?
On the contrary, I think pretty well of all my lives.
Lives?
As of a cat. I have more than one. I realize that I wouldn't be the first victim to feel your hook in my throat, Spaniard, but this I guarantee I'd be the last.
You've got the gall to threaten me?
No, merely stating a fact. I'm not altogether alone in Marseille. You know, I have very powerful associates who could even reach you.
You're a liar.
Try me.
Well, maybe we can make a deal, matey. My business is expanding. I could use a sharper like you.
Now you're beginning to sound more intelligent.
You don't like me any more than I like you, Mr. Maloof. It's a fine start. We should do ourselves some good.
Ourselves. No one else.
Hey. All right. Meet me tonight over in the south bank of Old Harbor. There's no warehouse. Last one on the dock. Abandoned, they say.
But you say differently.
Come and see for yourself, Mr. Maloof. 11 o'clock.
6 bells it is, my friend.
Maybe we got more in common than I thought. Have another slug of grog, matey.
I begged off and left the Spaniard swilling his bucket of grog. I left Old Town and walked to one of the better hotels in Marseille to dine alone. I was enjoying an after-dinner liqueur when something new and uniformed was added.
Am I addressing Monsieur Mike Maloof?
Why, yes.
I'm Inspector Delarge, police. Let me speak very plainly. We have trouble enough here without importing it from America. I advise you to make your stay as brief as possible, monsieur, and to cause no incident while you are here. Au revoir.
Fog lay in my throat like cold cotton when I arrived at the abandoned warehouse on the waterfront of Old Harbor. Backwater lapped against the pilings of the dock, and the damp crept into my bones. The whole atmosphere of the place was one of defeat, despair, and hopelessness. I was anxious to get my business over with, and I pushed open a sagging door. Hello? Anybody there?
Mike Maloof.
Why, yes, I was to meet the...
He didn't have a thing on him, Spaniard. Not even a knife.
More fool him. Look to it, Robbie. He's waking up. So, you've come back to us, Mr. Maloof.
My congratulations, Spaniard. For not dropping me into the sea after your cabin boy here slugged me.
That would have been far too easy.
Easy?
Yeah. I want to see you squirm a bit before sinking you.
You didn't think I'd let you walk in nice as you please and take over my hard-earned living, did you?
Certainly. I still intend to, Spaniard.
Listen to her,
Oh, he's
Rory.
a comedian, he is.
But Inspector Delarge takes an even more humorous view of the situation.
Did you say, Delarge?
That's why he came here so bold. He's got protection.
Put down, Robbie. You should have told me that sooner, Mr. Malou.
I found it most unwise to publicize one's affiliations.
Keeping too quiet might lose you your life.
Does that mean I still go for a midnight swim?
No. No, I'll sign you on, Mr. Malou. But it's going to take more than your fancy talk or Inspector Delarge.
How do you mean?
Well, they're clamping down on me. I'm afraid to so. You find a safe way of making customer contact, amigo, and you're in.
Can't your corrupt inspector assist you?
So you know that, do you?
Well, of course.
Hey, don't trust them Spaniards.
Shut up. Stay out of this. You're in on one condition, my love. Sell my goods for me and you share. But if you fail, then you'll feel the cold steel of my hook against your throat.
Nice guy, this Spaniard. But at least I was in. And already, by chance, I'd uncovered one corrupt police inspector who was a part of Operation Black Market. The next stage was to get enough evidence to break the story. In the short space of 24 hours, I knew that the Spaniard headed the black market organization and that Inspector Delarge, for one, was on his payroll. But knowing it wasn't enough, I had to prove it. So I had to take the game one stage further and do some mild trading on behalf of the Spaniard. But to do that, I had to make it convincing.
Violet, sweet Violet. All spend a few pence for the good of their soul and the breath. Oh, it's you, young gentleman.
Good morning, Annie.
Did you find the Spaniard?
Yes. Say, isn't it a bit cold for you to be out today?
Oh, my diggings are no better. What with me gas turned off and me landlady wanted to lock me out if I don't pay me past rent.
Look, supposing I buy out your stock and we go over to that inn for something warm, huh?
What, you'd go into an inn with the likes of me?
Oh, it'd be an honor. Come along, madame.
There's nothing like a spot of tea and brandy to put life in a body again.
You want another cup, Annie?
Oh, Lord love you, sir. I've had 3 already. Oh, well, maybe I'll best have one more.
That's my girl. I'll brew the potion myself, huh?
Well, I never thought that gentle Annie'd see the likes of this again.
I see I'll have to take you in hand, Annie.
How do you mean, sir?
Oh, maybe I've taken a fancy to you.
To me? Go on with you.
Or perhaps I've got nothing better to do at the moment.
Oh, that sounds more natural.
Well, how's this for a starter? I'll bring you flowers from the wholesale market, the best and freshest blooms I can find, and they won't cost you a penny. How about that?
You do this for me?
If you'll do something for me, Mum.
Oh, anything, Mr. Maloof, anything.
You're going to have the briskest floral trade in Marseille, and whoever asks you for violets, sweet violets, remember this?
Violets, sweet violets. Well, why, sir, that's my own song.
Yes, but they must say those exact words when they make a purchase.
Oh,
see?
yeah.
Now, when they do, you give them my address. I'm staying at the Plaza.
The Plaza, yes.
Now, there'll be some who'll give you envelopes. These I'll collect every evening.
To have business with such folk.
Just follow my instructions, Mother, and you'll make us both very happy.
Oh, that I will.
And now, how about another spot of tea, huh?
I've never heard the like, Mr. Murrow. The old thing's a rum idea.
But you can't disagree with its efficiency, Spaniard. Gentle Annie will siphon the contacts. They either come to me at the plaza or they leave their dough in the envelopes for the larger merchandise. Best of all, no one will suspect. Annie has sold her wares in that square for years.
Buying flowers to sell black market. What's this business coming to?
Well, things are tough the world over.
The only thing that makes me out to, amigo, is that it's your neck. Remember that.
I remember. And I accept the responsibility.
We'll try it for a month. No longer.
Less. I guarantee profitable results within the week. And you won't forget my share, will you, partner?
Don't you worry about me, amigo. We're sailing together. But one shift in course from you, and my oak will do its work.
Now my timbers are shaking.
All right, then. How about another bucket of grog with me, Mr. Malou?
Not tonight, Spaniard. Remember, I have to be up with the birds to buy violets while the dew is still fresh. My plan was simply this: to do some minor trading, enough to get evidence. And if it had been given a chance, it might possibly have worked. But there were other forces at work, and my scheme fell down that night with a damp thud. At dusk, as arranged, I went to meet Annie in the square, knowing that certain petty criminals had been sent to trade with her during the day. Not enough to matter, but enough to convince the Spaniard. So I went to pick up the envelopes, unsuspecting, unprepared. Good evening, Annie. You got some sweet violets for me?
Sir, Mr. Maloof, look out.
Mr. Malou?
Well, Inspector Delarge. Facing the other way, reading a newspaper. You know, I should have got to know the back of your head more thoroughly.
You won't try to make any move, please, Malou. I have gendarmes around the square.
Oh?
For black market activities, I hereby place you under arrest.
To say the situation was loaded was something of an understatement. 2 hours later, I was in front of the prefect of police with Inspector Delarge giving a highly colorful and fictitious story of my activities.
That is the position, mon père. I've had this man under watch since he arrived. He is a dangerous American with a criminal record.
Have you anything to say, Monsieur Malou?
Plenty.
What is there to say? Do you deny you are trading in illegal goods and using the woman flower seller as your agent?
Well,
Do you deny it?
No, but...
Then what else is there to say? He admits it, mon préfet.
Let us hear him, Inspector Delarge.
All right, mon préfet. I didn't want to do it this way, but there's not much choice now. My name isn't Maloof. It's Mike Canoy. I'm an American newspaper man from Paris.
Lies. You know yourself we have a file on the activities of this Maloof.
That is true, Inspector. But it should not be difficult to prove his identity.
Give me a few hours and I can do just that.
Very well. I concede he may be a newspaper man. But aren't we getting away from the point? Whatever he is, he was trading in the black market. A newspaper man. Hell, there have been corrupt newspapermen before.
And corrupt policemen, Inspector Delarge.
That is always the last resort, monsieur. Mon préfet, we have a case against him. And there is a witness.
Yes. Bring in the witness.
Certainement. Monsieur, come in.
Robbie.
You see, the witness is known to this man.
Andrew Robinson. Is that the name?
Certainly is, sir. This is the man.
You have charges to make against Monsieur Malou?
Aye. This is the man who comes to the crow's nest and tries to talk my friend the Spaniard into a black market deal. I heard it all with my own ears.
Well, monsieur?
This man works for the Spaniard, and he and Inspector Delarge dreamed this up between them.
Come. That goes too far.
Too far? I'll go further. Delarge is in this black market in town right up to his neck, and I can prove it.
The man is an idiot. This is a pack of lies.
Wait a minute. An accusation against one of my police is a serious matter. How can you substantiate it?
By bringing you the Spaniard.
Now, wait a minute.
You see, they don't like that. Look, Monsieur le Préfet, I came to Marseille under this guise to try and get into the black market. All right. So it was working against the police, but I was after a story. So we won't debate the merits of what I did.
Get on with it.
I met the Spaniard and I put a deal to him. He accepted me because he thought I was under Inspector Delarge's protection. So I started to do some small trading through Annie just to make my role look genuine.
Are you going to listen to any more of this?
Wait, Delarge.
I talked the Spaniard into it, but not his henchman, Robbie, and not apparently Inspector Delarge. Together, they plotted to frame me like this, and when I bring in the Spaniard, I think I can prove that.
How?
The Spaniard is a man who doesn't like his orders countermanded. If I were to bring him here, we might learn a great deal.
There is one point, monsieur. For months, my men have been trying to find this man they call the Spaniard. How can you find him if a full-scale investigation has failed?
I found him before, didn't I? Who was in charge of that investigation?
Inspector Delarge.
Okay, mon préfet. I'll bring your boy in within a few hours. Maybe that'll prove for a start that Inspector Delarge's inquiries weren't so thorough after all. For a while he demurred and then finally agreed. And I went after the Spaniard. He wasn't at the crow's nest, but I finally found him in the warehouse. I entered very carefully this time.
Oh, it's you, is it, my snooping amigo? The newspaper man!
Get your news fast, Spaniard. Not this time.
They were fools. I'm getting out. As soon as I play you... It's you or me, amigo. I always knew it would be. And my yoke will get you.
Not this time, Spaniard. Come on, get up. You got a date with me at police headquarters. It took us a few hours, but the truth finally came out. I was cleared. Inspector Delarge was indicted with the Spaniard and the rest of the crew. Oh, yes, it all tidied up very nicely. And 2 days later, I was on my way back to Paris. But at the airport, before I left, there was one solitary well-wisher to see me off.
Mr. Conroy, sir.
Annie!
Oh, I couldn't let you go without a word of goodbye, sir.
Well, now, that's very kind of you, Annie. You came all this way just to see me off?
Yes, and to give you these. Au revoir, Mr. Conroy. And all the best from Annie.
She was lost in the crowd, and I was on my way to the plane, deeply touched, I might say. I carried my small present up the gangway and down it again when we reached our destination. Well, what could I do? It was a gift. That's how I came to fly from Marseille to Paris, carrying a bunch of violets.
You have been listening to Lionel Merton as Mike Connoy in another exciting episode in the series, Europe Confidential.
This is Basil Rathbone again. Well, that's a story that's hit the headlines, and that's the way it's found. From his office in Paris, Mike has set out many times to track down those little fragments of news which build into a headline article. Indeed, our roving reporter friend has many a tale to tell. I hope you will join me for the next one. Well, goodbye till then. Till we meet again and listen to another of the world's greatest mysteries.